It's 1:30, so why don't we get started? Yasmin, will you take the roll, please?
Carrasco, Morales, Mahan,
Here.
Esparza,
Here.
Foley.
Here.
Thank you.
So we have a quorum. I'm just going to get started. It's a busy day and a busy tomorrow. So why don't we just jump into the work plan? The first item, and I don't know if you've seen it, but we do have an amended agenda that was sent out a little while ago. And so the first thing we need to do is to review the work plan. There are two items there. The first is the economic recovery status report. That is, we're asking that that be dropped and be added to the new work plan for the next fiscal year. The reason for that is, number one, we did just have a study session with council the full council in May, and there isn't a lot to update us with as far as the economic recovery, and we will have more to report on in the following in a few months when we get back from the break. So, and then the second item, I assume it's the same kind of thing. I see it's being requested that we drop it as well, but drop it, but not permanently, to bring it back in the next work plan.
Yes, and Chair Foley, this is Rosalind Huey, City Manager's Office. For that second item on the anti-displacement strategy, it was actually did appear on the work plan and inadvertently did not make it on the June agenda. So that was on our part. So a mistake, and we will certainly add it for the next work plan.
Okay, good enough. Councilmember Esparza, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, so we are dropping displacement from the January to June work plan, and we're bringing it to get approved in the July through December work plan. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so when would this come back to us?
That's a good question. Rosalind, do you have an idea when this will come back?
Yes, Chair Foley, we're looking at bringing that in either August or September. And just a reminder, when the Housing Department took the item to full council, we received direction to provide updates regularly to the CED committee.
Okay.
So we're looking at either August or September.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll move to drop and defer to the fall 2021 work plan for the economic recovery status report, and then drop and defer to the displacement to come back to us in fall. So I'll go ahead and make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, great. I do see some members of the public with their hands raised. So I will defer. I will go to them right now. Keep in mind that we are only talking about the work plan and the two items that we are dropping. Individual with the phone number 5140. You have 2 minutes.
Nothing like kicking the can down the road. Sounds great. Maybe if you guys don't make a decision, there'll be less money spent, like on that Vision Zero thing you want for $1 million, trying to figure out Vision Zero for $1 million. Yeah, anytime you guys can postpone things and kick the can down the road, that's great. Less taxes, less regulations momentarily. So yeah, go for it. Just keep kicking that can down the road like you guys always do. great work, everybody. Great work down there at City Hall. I can't wait to talk about the new cannabis thing you guys, the little deal you guys have up your sleeves. Another dirty.
Okay, we're not
backward-
talking about the cannabis issue right now. We're talking about the 2 items that were dropped. Please stay on topic.
Yeah, way to kick the can down the road. Great work, Pam. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.
Blair?
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. Thanks a lot for taking public comment for these deferred items. I wanted to speak to the anti-displacement item that will be on now the July agendas. I just wanted to quickly remind that with anti-displacement, there can be issues of ELI, VLI, and mixed income. And just to remind yourselves of the creative ideas we can work towards to help anti-displacement measures with those ideas in the following months. And a thank you that we've worked through the eviction moratorium issues for June and hopefully August. And we'll be looking towards a December date as the next real serious eviction moratorium issues. And thank you to everyone's work on that. I mean, this has been an effort that is now, it is involving owners and tenants and government alike at the state and local level. Thank you. I think we're addressing some interesting ideas of funding and subsidy. Good luck how we can talk about the future of subsidy in San Jose and how it can help not just the eviction moratorium program, but there's several other local programs and projects at this time, and you know, like garbage, electricity, and water that can use subsidy help, and that we can all be open to its. You can ask for that help as the public, and you shouldn't be afraid, and government shouldn't be afraid to want to explain that to its public. Thanks a lot.
Paul Soto.
Good afternoon, Council. The people that are vulnerable to displacement are counting on you to exercise power and priority because they have none. There is absolutely no defense that the poor, impoverished, and myself included, that were generationally redlined from having any means by which to defend ourselves against the gentrification that's happening today is the reason why something like this needs to be a priority, but you're showing as a city that you're not defending or protecting these populations that is a guarantee going to be gentrified out of here. And we need to start having the conversation about the residual impacts of redlining and how the redlining has contributed to creating this vulnerable population to begin with. We need to start this. The reason why is because what you're doing is you're passing policy and it's covering up those crimes. Those are crimes against humanity. That's exactly what they were, because they deprived the Chicanos and the Mexicans of due process of law and equal protection under the law. You cannot deprive somebody of property without compensation. What is redlining but depriving us of property without due compensation? That is exactly what happened. And so I'm cautioning and imploring you to start protecting the population by prioritizing this work and not just kicking it down a couple of months. That is disrespectful, and it's not okay to ever do that to these people that can't protect themselves against what's happening in this country.
Thank you. Going back to the committee, Councilmember Carrasco, did I see you raise your hands? We're talking about the work plan, the 2 items that we're dropping to bring back in the fall.
Yes, thank you so much. And my apologies. They're working on our internet service in the neighborhood, so I may cut in and out. And I might have to text you, Chair, if I lose service. So I don't know how that's going to work with our Robert Rules of Order. We'll check in with Tony. And I missed it. That's the whole point, is that I missed what the motion was, and if Rosalind could elaborate. Are we just delaying it to this fall, not next year?
Correct.
Okay, because I heard next year.
Yeah, no, next fiscal year, which starts Thursday. So
Okay.
so the idea is that the economic recovery plan will be postponed because we actually just had an update on that to the full council in May, and there's not a lot of new things to report that hasn't come to the full council already. The other item was inadvertently missed to be placed on the calendar, the discussion for today. So it will be brought back in August or September of
And
the new
Chair,
work
I
plan.
did just confirm that it will be brought back in August.
Okay. So the anti-displacement is coming back in August.
Okay. And my apologies again, with the really faulty internet service that I'm getting right now. I heard next year, and I went into a little bit of a panic, and so I'll go ahead and ditto the motion that's on the table. I will say, with post-pandemic, and I was trying to hear Mr. Soto's comments, but I think they go along the same lines, that there is a great sense of urgency with folks who are, as we speak, they're being displaced. And we know this. We're going to be dealing with a huge issue tomorrow regarding the flea market. And in spite of what happens tomorrow, and what happens 3 years from now, these are small business owners that got hit really hard because of the pandemic. And we know that because they're small and micro business owners, these are the folks that were hit the hardest. Of course, we know along Alum Rock Avenue, they were already being displaced, and it started 7 years ago when I got into office with VTA's capital investments. The intentions were great, but some of the issues that came up were very difficult, extremely difficult to overcome. And as a result, we saw a lot of businesses close their doors. Just as we thought we were coming out of that debacle, COVID-19 comes around and kicks us in the butt yet again. And so I was on a panel just a few nights ago where I was given some very eye-opening and really sobering statistics in terms of the number of businesses just in San Jose alone that are owned by people of color, immigrants, but really by women and single mothers. And I don't have them on hand, but those numbers are really up there, and these are the businesses that are really struggling. So I want to make sure that we completely keep our eye on this, our focus on this, and we don't let them fall off the radar. So thank you so much. Again, I thought it was next year, and so I'm glad to hear that it's not, that it's this fall, and everybody knows that there is a sense of urgency to move on economic recovery, to really talk about displacement policies and how we're going to try and hold back that tide that's coming. I often say that I feel like I'm in a little rowboat. I thought I was paddling with a little plastic toy paddle. Now I feel like I'm paddling with hands on a little rowboat, and my kids, along with my neighbors, are scooping up the water as we're trying to row through it. And it's getting harder and harder. Truly, I just see that wave coming, and it's just frightening. If it's frightening for me, I know it's frightening for my neighbors. So thank you so much. I'll support the motion.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Esparza.
Thanks. I'll be quick. I think August is a good time to review the displacement strategy. We will have hopefully started to undertake some of the work that Councilmember Carrasco and the mayor and others have advocated. So I'm hoping that we get that report back in time in August, and in particular because if we can also assess what others are doing. Again, we've talked a lot about the state and the county and other impacts that there might be to our businesses. And so we can review it in that context as well in August. And then in particular, it'll be before, if we need to, before we can take another bite at the budget apple in October. So I think August works. I am recognize that we're deferring it, but I think we're deferring it for a good reason. And I look forward to having that very dense conversation in August. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Let's vote.
Carrasco,
Aye.
Perales,
Yes.
Mahan,
Aye.
Esparza,
Yes.
Foley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, great. We don't have any consent calendar items, so moving on to the reports to the committee, the Economic Development Activities Report. Elizabeth Handler is here. Elizabeth, what's going on?
Thank you, Chair Foley. Elizabeth Handler, Public Information Manager, Office of Economic Development. There's a lot going on. More than we have time to tell about, but at least we can hit the highlights of the SJ Economy News for July, for goodness sake. I'll just run through quickly. There are two exciting reports now that we're able to share about the amounts of money that the Paycheck Protection Program loans and the California relief grants were able to bring to San Jose. And the numbers are pretty impressive. The Paycheck Protection Program brought in more than one.
My apologies, Chair. Is it me? The sound? Is it me?
I think it is. I think it is you, Councilmember Carrasco. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Are you having?
I'll try and listen simultaneously with YouTube.
Okay.
The Paycheck Protection Program brought in more than $1.75 billion to businesses in San Jose. We have a very lengthy blog post that goes into how those funds were distributed. But the key points are that more than 3,000 of the PPP loans went to San Jose businesses with $1.75 billion in aggregate value. The larger loans accounted for 63% of the funds, 1.1 billion. But there were 10,310 loans of under $150,000. So those went to our small businesses. And that's a really good amount of money coming in at that level of our economy, which is very encouraging. And the top sector receiving those loans were restaurants, which again is encouraging. And our blog post has rundowns by geography, by size of business, and so on, a lot more detail. Then for the California relief grants, which are essentially free money, no repayment required. The California Relief Grants Program went through 6 rounds of funding, and they got better at doing it each time, which was encouraging. And there was a total of 2,000, almost 3,000 grantees in San Jose for a total of $31 million. The top 3 sectors for those grants were restaurants, salons, including hair, beauty, and other care-based businesses, and were 45% of the grants awarded. And again, we have a lot more detail in the blog post itself, including distributions by zip code. So that was good. It's good to know that that money came to us and that it's a significant portion of the funds that came to Northern California. We started an update now of our real estate division, which has been toiling in the background for decades here, but there were some notable achievements, one of which was, most people don't know that the moving of the palace and apartments was made possible by the donation of a piece of city property to Habitat for Humanity. And our real estate division managed that, although they didn't pull the house from one site to the next. we provided the property for the new location. And then with Measure T passing, which allowed the city to do a lot of improvement around infrastructure and safety, public safety, 2 new fire stations and a new police training academy have been, sites have been purchased. And we also were able to acquire land or negotiate land use agreements for 2 new parks. And so that's a very exciting part of what our OED does do in the real estate realm for the city of San Jose. Vacation news, vaccination news, I'm sorry, vacation. We're trying to make sure that all our large employers know that the county will provide a free pop-up vaccination site at their workplace if they have enough employees who are interested in doing it. So we're promoting that because it's a perfect thing for a large employer to do as a very concrete way of encouraging vaccination for employees. And finally, we've got some awesome news about opening up. San Jose is moving back into finally some summer events with Make Music Day, which was on June 21st. I hope people were able to participate. Last year, you may remember, it was entirely online. It was fun, but it wasn't the same. This year, we did manage to do online events and some live events as well. One of the highlights was Opera San Jose did performances from the Winchester Mystery House, which is actually available online, and I recommend it. It's very cool. And this year, we're coming back with City Dance. It's going to be a little bit different format. There's going to be 3 performances or performances activities, because it's open to everyone to bring out their inner dancer. One in August, one in September, and one in October. And we're going to be doing it in conjunction with the San Jose Museum of Art. And so City Dance will be held at the Circle of Palms next to the museum. And the museum will be very much involved. And it's all going to be Latin themed music and dancing. So it's going to be awesome. We're really excited to be able to bring that back. And that'll be August 6th, September 3rd, and October 1st. And finally, I encourage everyone to check out the sanjose.org events calendar that is put up by our partner Team San Jose, because we're seeing some actual real events showing up now. They're not all online. So we are recommending folks go and check out the things that you can do in downtown and throughout the rest of San Jose. Thank you very much, Chair.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. Turning to members of the public who might like to speak on this particular item, we're discussing the Economic Development Activities Report. Paul Soto.
Thank you, Paul Soto. I want to talk about
Paul, I'm having a really hard time hearing you.
Hello.
There you go. That's a little bit better.
Okay. I want to talk about the open house.
Actually, now I lost you again.
I'd like to talk about. Hello.
Go ahead.
Okay. Here's where the Paulson House was removed, okay, by the city. Donated property, that's a good thing. Pluses, Habitat for Humanity connected to it, good stuff. What is going to be, the reason why that house was moved is because what is going to be erected in its place is a 30-story building, okay? That 30-story building is going to be the means by which that entire area is going to be gentrified. With the amount of people and the type of people that are going to occupy that space, they are not from San Jose. I guarantee you, they are not going to be from San Jose. So what is happening is basically manifest destiny with manners. Manifest destiny inserted into and codified in law, that we are going to gentrify the Mexican populations out of here. And we're going to do it with these real subtle changes. And nobody's going to know that there's an association between that building, gentrification, redlining, and the moving of the Paulson House. This is how the magician does his trick, is he does something over here on the left while there's really actually something going on the right. And this is a prime example of that. Okay, so I'm asking again, every day I'll be here asking, we need to have redlining as a focal point. We have to have a study session. We have to articulate explicitly how redlining has affected the Mexican communities here, because they are the ones that are most vulnerable to displacement. Okay, how it has affected these communities and how it is continually, these people are constantly being victimized, and it's being done through policies like this, because they are going to make enormous amounts of profits from that at the expense of the gentrification of the people.
Thank you. Blair. Speaking about the Economic Development Activities Report.
Hi, thank you. I think this report, Blair Beekman here, I think this report offered something of the small business loans that can be offered, and that there's been over about at least 2,400 small business loans at this time. I know the county of Santa Clara is working on this issue as well. And for East Side businesses, what Councilperson Carrasco mentioned at the beginning, you know, that it's really could be helpful at this time. And they offer a lot of help and services with the small business loans that include air filtration systems. And what I've learned is I've been learning, try to use the terms of aerosol vaccine help for the air filtration systems. I've learned there can be UV light that can really be of help. And maybe that's a more regular way I can talk about this issue. You know, UV light and the use of you know, continuously cleaning your air filtration systems can be a lot of help at this time and of interest. So I just thought I would mention these ideas and that I'm learning a better language, hopefully, to mention the future of air filtration systems that we're going to have to talk about a lot for our schools, for our buses, for our small businesses. And so thanks for your time. To mention, to try to politely offer a few words of Paul Soto's last comment about redlining issues. That was a major issue that was studied by San Jose staff and government up to about 2018 and 19, and that brought on their ideas of equity. And so talk to the people of the equity office, and they've been developing those redline ideas for the past few years now. Good luck in your efforts. Thanks.
Thank you.
I got 18 seconds left, but I will stop now. Thank you.
Thank you. Phone number 5140. Mr. Sensini. Talking about the Economic Development Report.
Yeah, I mean, everything looks good. You guys are going to be out of money, though, because, you know, there's not going to be the tax revenue that you think. And it seems as if people can ramble on about other things that aren't on the agenda. But, man, you guys know how to shut me up and walk me out just like Tibaldi did a couple of years ago. You always do it, Pam. You always make sure to squelch me every single chance you get, both in person and on the phone. Everybody else gets their 2 minutes, but me. And you know you're discriminating against me. You know you don't like me. And you know that when I speak the truth. You guys don't want to hear the truth. You don't want to hear about what really is going on in this city. And your economic development plan, keep doing what you're doing, because, you know, I'd like to tell you to stop doing what you guys are doing, but you're not. It's kind of like children. You know, I want you guys to do it. Maybe because it's an Italian thing. Italians like watching other people screw it up. And you guys are doing a fantastic job of it. I can't even believe you're letting me on this long, Pam, because you're realizing how prejudiced you are against me. You hate me, Pam. And you know why, because I speak the truth. I speak the truth. Everyone else gets to ramble on. Oh, hey, thanks for letting me ramble on. Thanks a lot, Pam. Thanks a lot, Sam, and all you city council members who are wasting taxpayer dollars regulating this city into oblivion. Look at your downtown. Are you proud of that downtown? I'd like anyone there to say, wow, our downtown looks great. We've done so much economic development. You guys haven't done anything. You guys are a disgrace. You should be ashamed of yourselves how you run this city. Really, I mean, it's disgusting what you people do. The taxes, the fees, the fines. You can't even pay a fine in person. You guys just think of.
Thank you. Next caller is Skylar Smith.
Skylar, looks like you're using an older version of Zoom. Chair, would you like to promote them to panelists for just 2 minutes?
Sure.
Okay.
Oops, it looks like did they drop off?
No, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Oh, I am so sorry. I'm actually a teacher, and I know I have old Zoom. I just wanted to bounce off of the economic development talks from the last two citizens. One of the things that, I appreciate all the things that you guys are doing, especially with the arts, with the music and the dance, but I do feel like a lot of money gets funneled into helping small businesses, which I owned for many years. I had a dance studio. I was a private business owner, and I actually lost it right around COVID. I feel like sometimes throwing money at our businesses, like loans and whatnot, it is helpful because of COVID, but in general, like, the best thing that you could do to save small businesses is to look at what we've done with zoning and planning, and all the things that we've done to make the cost of rent on businesses and homes so very high. At least 70% of everything that we earned went to rent. And I know I'm not alone as a small business owner. It was why I had to shut our doors. And I think that is a real concern, and it crosses all lines. I don't feel that the red line is against women or Hispanics or people that have more melanin in their skin. I don't think so. I think what it really is it's hurting the middle class and everybody underneath. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be a white man, and actually I know plenty of them that have businesses and they're hurt in this way. I think that what's killing our small businesses and what's killing San Jose and the Bay Area is the high cost of living, surviving space at all, anywhere. Space is worth more than gold, and it's destroying this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Skylar. I didn't want to cut you off. Thank you. Turning back to the committee, Elizabeth, thank you for your report, and it's good to hear that so many people or small businesses, or businesses actually, not just small, benefited from the PPP loans. And I know that those forgiveness notices are just starting to go out to businesses. So that was a good way, a helpful way for businesses to really make it through last year with the first round of PPP and then the second round of PPP for those who were able to benefit. And I've been in contact with many of the restaurants in District 9 in my area who really benefited from round 1 and round 2. And even though it was difficult for them to get all their documentation and get the funding, once they did, it was really a godsend to them because they were able to hold on to their staff and which meant that their staff was able to cover their overhead as well. So I appreciate the report. I see Councilmember Esparza, you had your hand raised. Is that from last time or is that
No,
from?
it's for this.
Okay, then take it away.
Okay, thank you. So I actually wanted to go back to the PPP item. There were 2,802 grantees in San Jose, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And do we have a breakdown of that? And I'll tell you where I'm coming from. Reveal and about 10 news organizations famously had to sue the SBA to get information about the PPP loans. And once they were able to get the information from the federal government, it was very clear that businesses in majority white communities received PPP loans at higher rates, and that lending institutions actually really focused on higher income communities and leaving communities of color and communities in need without PPP loans. And so that's where I'm coming from on what we're tracking as a city. And so I wanted to ask about the 2,802 grantees in San Jose. Do we have a breakdown on where that is? And I'm talking specifically on the PPP loans at this point.
Yes, we do, council member, and we can certainly follow up with you with a lot more detail. I believe we have maps, but I can tell you right now that the 954 small businesses in the east side zip codes, which were 95116 and 95122, secured more than $67 million in PPP loans. So that's kind of an indication. Another one is that in the downtown zip codes of 95110, 95112, and 95113, there were 2,073 businesses, some of whom were larger businesses, but those loans amounted to about $550 million. And it's in our blog post, those figures, but we can certainly circle back with you and provide much more detail.
So downtown got 550 million and east side got 67 million. Is that what I'm hearing?
550 and 67, yes.
Okay, I would like that because, and I'd like the detail of that in addition to more updated information on the various grants. I know we got quite a detailed info memo last summer that was very, very helpful. And I know our folks do keep track of it, but I mean, I'll tell you, I still, I saved it. Some of the information I've gotten from Kim and obviously not now because she's gone, but Michelle McGurk has also sent us some of that detailed information in terms of, but that has been focused on our city grants, which is great because we're essentially filling in a lot of gaps, not just in the dollars, but in terms of access to the dollars, right? A lot of small businesses in the east side have had numerous challenges trying to access even our little grants, which are way easier than the federal government. And so I would like that information, please, with that breakdown, if you can, just for the PPP as well as our city grants. And I believe we're also tracking the state grants. Is that correct, Elizabeth or Nancy? I'm not sure,
Yes,
but
yeah, the city grant, the state grants as well. The city grants have already been issued, and that report, as you mentioned, we received that. But the new reports now are the PPP loans and the California grants.
yeah, and I think that level of detail is really important, particularly as we look at with the budget that we just approved and going into July 1 in terms of assessing how we help our small businesses. I know we've applied for money and our partners are gearing up on how to help our businesses navigate that process. I know that's emerged as a huge need, but we really need to have, I think, a better understanding of the playing field so that we can figure out how to level it. Because I do I don't think, I know that there are inequities because again, I've gone door to door in the business areas in my district and talked to folks about what they're getting, what they're not getting, what their challenges are. And most of the challenges, I mean, they're very appreciative of the city because we're the only ones knocking on their doors and offering that on the ground assistance. But they've been hanging in there. And I think, you know, we just talked about displacement. Well, some of these issues are going to determine what our city looks like. I sure don't want empty storefronts. I've said that from the beginning, that I do not want empty storefronts in my district. I don't think any of us do. And so how we figure out to surgically provide that assistance is going to be really critical in the coming months. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy, did you have a comment?
Yes, thank you very much. Council member, just wanted to say OED, we Nancy Klein, Economic Development, fully agree with you. And we'll be releasing a memo, info memo that was going to be heard today as economic recovery update, but will be deferred to the fall once the goal there was to better understand what the next September, October round of funding will be. But in the meantime, we have a pretty detailed with a good deal of the information that you're thinking about, council members. So we'll put that out as an info memo soon and then update when we come back in August, September.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Carrasco.
Actually, my questions were right along the same lines as Councilmember Esparza's. When I look at the info on the website, I was quickly adding up numbers, both the businesses and the amount of money. But I'm hoping that as these reports come up, that we don't have to maneuver through the labyrinth of websites, and that can come in a graph for us to look through, especially for our viewers that are looking through it, making those graphs as easy as possible so that they can look through it and we can be as transparent as possible is to me, it's best practice. I'm really concerned when I hear that our East Side businesses got, 67 million and downtown got, to the tune of 550 million. I'm sure that there's a logical explanation, although, right now that's just a major red flag for me. I'd like to know also in terms of the city, what we're doing for outreach and how we're getting the info out to our residents, to our business owners, how they're getting the information, how are we doing the kinds of workshops that are reaching out to folks? Are we, maybe you could just respond to that. How are our residents getting the kind of info that they need so that they can keep their doors open? Whether it's the loans or whether it's the grants.
Nancy, do you want me to go over what we're doing in our business development group?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. No, thank you, Councilmember Carrasco. We're implementing a series of different initiatives right now and have been since the early days of the COVID epidemic last year. One of them has been outreach by means of holding webinars that we've been putting together on the subjects ranging from how to help create an online presence for your small business, to how to apply for PPP loans, how to apply for grants, specific help for childcare business providers, help for restaurants, and we've been doing these for the most part in 5 languages, and having probably more than 3,000 people have attended since the first of the year, the series of webinars. So that's been one way of doing it. Another way has been we're now going door to door. We started with Alum Rock Plaza, where 2 teams of us went door to door and shared information with the store owners in English and in Spanish. We're doing another set of outreach walks to business owners along the West San Carlos corridor this coming Wednesday. We're 12 people in our little division. So in addition to the other work that we're doing, we're making time to go out door to door, find out what people are needing, find out how much help we can provide directly or how we can hook them up with our other service providers and technical service folks like SCORE, like the Minority Business Development Corporation, and so on in the community. We've also just done a mailing of some 11,000 resource brochures in 5 languages that again show what kinds of resources are available, where to go for technical assistance, and the basic details on how to get loans, grants, and other financial support. So those are kind of the highlights of what we're doing in terms of direct outreach.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just I know your team is not very large, and maybe we need to look at that as well. How many folks on your team are bilingual?
We have 2 bilingual members in our team in Spanish and 1 in Vietnamese. And actually that doesn't even count Juan Borelli and Swan Ha, who are on the permit side as well as OED. So that's our bilingual cadre.
So on the planning side, they're going out there as well to help with.
They're working with us, but they're working in a slightly different way in terms of helping to facilitate the permitting process rather than direct recovery and support.
That's the permitting process, but in terms of
but they're helping us as well with language access. So that, for instance, they are helping man our hotline, our both telephone and email hotline that we set up for COVID-19 relief.
Yeah.
So they're helping us also.
And I know that we're all kind of shifting and maneuvering and pivoting, from different jobs. And I'm just wondering I'm just thinking out loud, but I'm just thinking in terms of maybe this is this could be just a temporary shift for the Office of Immigrant Affairs and Office on Racial Equity, because they have so many bilingual folks to get out there also and help, because this is part of our recovery plan. We got to make sure that those doors stay open. And to me, this is just as urgent as our displacement, our policies on displacement, and making sure that people can continue to feed their children and keep a roof over their heads, especially when it comes to single mamas. They are many times the only providers for their families. To me, it's the first line of defense when it comes to staying safe and making sure that they're out of violent relationships, sex trafficking, human trafficking, making sure that they don't put their children in danger. I mean, for women to stay independent, financially stable, means so much in terms of safety issues for themselves and for their children. I worked in the world of domestic violence, and money was key for stability in a household, especially when women were the sole providers. So I don't know. I just think that we need to get more boots on the ground, because we know, and Councilmember Esparza can attest to this, on the east side of San Jose and those under-resourced communities, we saw those images go viral. We saw in our own city of San Jose, families that were completely disconnected due to the digital divide. And I'm sure that even now, even though they may have greater access, it doesn't mean that they know how to use it. Even business owners, by the way, let me just tell you a little quick anecdote. I had a business that opened up in my district, and my staff, when they went into the business to try and support them on the first few weeks of them opening up, because their rent went, the landlord decided to just, after they had invested over $100,000 in improvements, tenant improvements, they themselves, the small business owner, the owner decided to hike up the rent even more. So I think they doubled it or they tripled it. It was like, it was outrageous. So my staff went in there to try and support it. And this woman who had been, who was just very humble beginnings, did not know how to use her cash register. And so my staff had to go into the, behind the cash register and had to teach her how to use the cash register, if you can only imagine. So some of these folks, they just have the will and the spirit to keep moving forward, but they don't necessarily know, or they don't have the technical savviness. And so my concern is depending on webinars or even Zoom, some of us are still struggling. As you can see, they're fixing something out here, and I'm going like this, trying to hear every word. I'm hanging on every word that you all say. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of that breakdown, as well as what Councilmember Esparza had just asked for. I'd like to see the demographics. I'm hoping that as these reports come to committee, that you come already with that info instead of having to come back with another informational memo. I'd like to have, I think these should be those things that you check off with the reports. We're going to ask for them, right? So demographics, what the outreach plan was, we're going to ask for them, because we are now in a place of scrutinizing recovery. Are our small business owners who have been most impacted by COVID, those that are in those very vulnerable communities, are they being outreached to? Are they having access to the funds that they need to keep their doors open? Are the mamas in my district being taken care of? Do they know that there's money out there? Some of it is free money, it's grant money. We're getting funding from the federal administration because these businesses are the ones that are going under. They're not just giving it to us because San Jose is such a great place to live. It's to rescue these businesses and to make sure that they keep their doors open so that they can continue providing the services and the products. It's not for us to just do whatever we want with it, right? It's so that we can get it right into the pockets of these businesses so that they don't drive away in a Rolls Royce, but so that they can keep their doors open, and so that Alum Rock stays vibrant, so that so that Story Road stays vibrant, so that King stays vibrant, so that Tropicana Plaza stays vibrant, so that these businesses can continue to thrive in the city of San Jose, and we continue to attract people into our city who love the products and the services that our residents have been offering for decades. And so I'd like to see those come as the reports come through. I don't want to look through the different websites because it's incredible. Right now I had to ask my staff to find where that blog was, where the website was. Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Nancy. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, and happy to wait till after Councilmember Esparza if you prefer.
Oh, I'm done. I'm sorry. I'll lower my hand. Thank you.
Sure. It's exciting. Totally appreciate council members what you're sharing, and just wanted to share a little bit more that in the budget that was just passed, there are 2 more TempU positions that are coming through as a result of the ARP dollars, and those will be bilingual staff members. That's what we'll be recruiting for. In addition, I want to mention that there are positions in Work to Future, both 2 Vietnamese speakers and another Spanish speaker that also work with us to respond. Also wanted to share that Councilmember Carrasco and Esparza and Perales, we were listening very much about not focusing on computers and getting out there. In addition to physically going out, we're taking advantage of a change in the business license system that I'm sure you recall the finance department, the IT department are leading. We're very much engaged because we want to make that system very much more responsive, including a hoped for SMS or text option for business owners to share cell phones so that we can work with folks on their phones who, as you know and have said, several more people do have iPhone cell phones that can get texts. And then lastly, when you hear the downtown report that Blage is going to be sharing in just a little bit, there will be yet more information about small business.
Thank you, Nancy. Just a couple of things I'll add as a small business owner. I really don't want the city texting me regarding updates. I get enough, I'm going to consider it, and this may just be me, I'm going to consider it junk text and wondering why I'm getting it. I do get the emails regularly, and I find that useful, but going door to door is probably the most effective thing that we're doing, because we're able to meet them, the business owners, one-on-one. With regards to the PPP loan, I will offer this, that there's a real disconnect between who you bank with as a small business owner and the ability to get PPP funds. If you are a small business, and I mean, small, micro businesses, you have a hard time getting, and you bank with one of the big banks, and I'm not going to name any of them. You all know the names of the big banks, but if you bank with a big bank, they may not, when PPPs were available, they may not have had the time or the staff to address a small business owner's needs. Instead, they use their energies and time spent on big businesses. If you work with a small business bank, a local business bank, your ability and your success rate of getting a PPP loan was much higher. So many times I'd come across individuals who have small businesses who were having a hard time getting financing through the PPP grant program. And then I'd ask them who their bank was, and I'd find out it's usually one of the big players. And they had difficulty, but people who had smaller independent banks, business banks, downtown businesses were able, not downtown businesses, downtown business banks were able to navigate that process a lot better for their clients. So what would be interesting in the demographics, and I don't know if you have this or not, or how hard it would be to include their banking relationship, not who they bank with, but whether it's a large bank, a national bank or a regional bank. That would be an interesting statistic to have, because I think you'd see the numbers go up with a regional bank in success rate versus helping small businesses versus the big banks. Just my thought. Councilmember Esparza, you have the last word on this, and would you like to make a motion when you're done?
I'll be quick. I actually just wanted to thank you for bringing that up. It is true amongst all the studies that small banks have been shown to work in terms of getting PPP loans. I think a lot of the businesses, and I'll speak for myself, so I won't speak for anybody else, but speaking for Story, or my side of Story and King, speaking for the businesses in Little Saigon and Grand Century Mall and Central Road, a lot of those businesses don't have, I guess, traditional banking relationships is probably an understatement. And I'll tell you, especially when you were speaking, I was smiling because Story and King is such a story for our city, and how we've just taken this intersection that was so problematic and turned it into a point of pride for the community. And what's unique about Story and King, this is recent history. This is only, I want to say, within the past 15 years, Nancy, correct me if I'm wrong, but 15 years-ish, there were no banks in that area at all, for miles around. There were no banks.
That's correct.
And Story and King, part of that revitalization effort was to bring banks to the east side, and it was a huge effort by the city to do that. And I think what you're bringing up, Councilmember Foley, is really important in terms of small businesses' access to capital. And that's part of, I would hope since we have the team on this committee here, I would hope that that's part of the navigation assistance and part of that sort of rebuilding better, right? That if we can provide that navigation assistance to our small businesses, particularly our monolingual small businesses, that if one of our partners needs to sit down with folks anyway, that we leave them better than with the way we found them, that maybe we do offer those connections or a portfolio, that we provide all of the folks that we sit down and say, hey, these are some resources that might be able to benefit you and I also want to add how much I love the idea that Councilmember Carrasco came up with about our Office of Immigrant Relations helping, because over the years, as a community advocate, we've been out there to advocate for immigrants to have access to banking and access to capital, and all of those things are really intertwined in so many ways. And so I just wanted to add my 2 cents that I think that's a brilliant idea. And also the whole issue about banking and access to capital and resources is huge. And since we as a city or our navigator partners will sit down with these businesses and are going out in person, that we don't limit that conversation to maybe just helping somebody apply for a grant, that we sit down. And I know it's more time and I know that time is money, but again, if we can build back a little bit better after this pandemic, we can leave our small businesses in a stronger position to grow and thrive, which is, I think, what we all want. That's it for me. Thank you.
Great. Can I have a motion? And
Chair, I just wanted to add something because I want to make an amendment to the motion.
we don't have a
think you're
motion
making
yet.
it.
We don't have a motion yet. So if you want to make the motion and include whatever it is, then let's please do. We don't have a motion yet.
Okay, because I just wanted to say when the Office of Immigrant Affairs was first birthed, it was birthed from a memo that Councilmember Perales and I submitted with other council members that are no longer here. And it was really in preparation, and Councilmember Perales, please correct me if I'm wrong. It was in preparation for what we thought was going to be a whole different federal administration. It wasn't going to be the individual that just left the office a few months ago. We thought it was going to be a she. And we thought that it was going to be a flood of DACA and DAPA qualified individuals, and we were going to really be completely swarmed by people that really needed help to get through the legal process. And so we felt we really needed to support our residents. Well, things have changed. We don't know where immigration reform is or where all of this is going. What I do know is that where we are here today in desperate need of supporting those individuals who own businesses. And we know what the stats show, which is the majority of those businesses are owned by immigrant communities. And now we're in a state of recovery. So I think that we need to really re-examine what the Office of Immigrant Affairs is doing in terms of advocating, connecting, and supporting that. So my motion is to accept, let me look at this.
Accept the report?
Yes, accept the report. I will add that in the future as the reports come in to please add those other items that I was asking for, which is the data, the demographics with the outreach plan. It's kind of like a checkoff list. Councilmember Esparza did ask for a few specifics to come back with information regarding this report to be brought back to us with an info memo. I'd like to be able to see that. I think it'd be good for the entire committee to see that info memo. And then the other is to examine or evaluate or have staff evaluate whether this is an avenue for us to look at for the Office of Immigrant Affairs to work into their next year's plan, because I don't think it's been solidified in terms of the recovery plan for our immigrant communities.
Second.
Okay, are we ready to vote? Okay, then please call the roll.
Carrasco?
Aye.
Perales?
Yes.
Mahan?
Aye.
Garza
Yes.
and Foley.
Aye. Okay, next is the downtown progress report, Blage Zalalic. Did I get that right?
You did. Perfect.
I've been practicing.
Oh, wow. I'm impressed. Thank you. Thank you for spending your valuable time at least practicing. I appreciate that. Because I know you have better things to do for sure. So let me just share my screen. And I have a presentation for the committee. Okay, and I assume you can all see my screen at this time?
Yes.
Okay, great. So good afternoon, committee members. I'm here to provide an update on the downtown progress update, which actually is typically done annually, but because of the events of the last year and the pandemic and a shift in work that we've been doing, this report was last given in June of 2019. So this is in essence kind of a 2-year report on downtown. My slides are not advancing. Okay. So a vibrant city center is made up of 4 key components: arts and entertainment, the work environment, shopping and dining, and urban living, all of those connected through the public realm. And that's in essence how I've structured this report, and I've been structuring the downtown progress report. So here's a map of the downtown growth area as defined in the city's general plan. And you can see that for our purposes, the way we think about downtown is definitely the inclusion of San Jose State University. Although from a technical aspect in terms of planning and permitting authority on site, they're actually autonomous and not under the kind of the city's purview. But this is the map. And so over the past 24 months, I think we've seen both some of the best of times and the worst of times for San Jose City Center. The last report that I did in June, I basically outlined, June of 2019, I was outlining the very positive momentum that downtown had been experiencing as a result of the things that make downtown most attractive: growing amenities, proximity to transit, and a highly talented workforce. And then 9 months later, as you all are very well aware, the words COVID-19 and pandemic came out of nowhere and became household names to us. And all of a sudden, mostly like other places in the city, but especially hit hard downtown, everything that really drove the downtown economy was shut down. The arts and culture venues, the businesses, workers stayed home, SAP Arena and Convention Center, kind of all of that was gone basically overnight. And so now, as of June of 2021, things are starting to pick up, but the activity is definitely not where we were in the past. So downtown has about 37,000 jobs in the growth area, and you can see some of the other basic stats on downtown in this slide. So as far as the work environment goes, there are about 3,700 businesses in the downtown growth area. The average age of a business in the downtown growth area is just under 11 years, which is really great. On the other hand, we've also seen from our business license data that about 160 licenses are less than 1 year. So that's kind of a positive indicator in the sense that people have either started up new businesses and or relocated their business into the downtown. And not surprisingly, the downtown growth area, we have concentration of large businesses. We have about 110 businesses that are employing over 65% of our workers. In addition, the downtown growth area has about 45% small business, which is considered 2 to 35 employees. And we also have about 52% of businesses in the downtown growth area are sole proprietors or self-employed. So as you can imagine, during the pandemic, leasing activity basically came to a standstill. In 2019, our downtown vacancy rate was about 13%. During the pandemic, it went up to about 15%, and now we're at about 17%. And because we only have 8.5 million square feet currently downtown, those jumps are pretty significant. in 2019, when we kind of last left this report, the rents were at about $4.50 a square foot. And in summer of, sorry, in 2019, when we left this last, rents were about $4.67 a square foot for Class A, and now we're at about $4.50. So there has been a decline, although honestly, not as much of a decline as we would have anticipated. As far as the development outlook, things continue to look bright. We do have some shovels in the ground. We did have one project that was put on pause, Boston Properties Platform 16, which they are now talking about restarting, which is wonderful news. But from a development perspective, the future continued to look bright despite the pandemic. So we currently have 3 million square feet under construction, which includes Adobe's 4th tower and the 200 Park Avenue project from J. Paul. And we have, even more positively, aside from the Google development, about 5 million square feet entitled and another 5 million in development review. One of the really exciting things that is kind of finishing up this year are some of the creative rehabs, and this is one of them. It's the former JCPenney building at First and Santa Clara Street that J. Paul purchased in 2018, and here we are in 2021, and there are big graphics on the window saying that the space is available. And as far as I know, we still have a lease for Blue Bottle Coffee coming into the corner of First and Santa Clara, which is really great news. The rest of this corner is also in transition with the Bank of Italy rehab restarting again, and then also Divco finishing up the creative rehab on the former Walgreens building. So very, very positive changes coming to that corner. These are just some additional photos of the projects that were entitled over the last year or about to be entitled very soon in 2021, early 2022. And of course, we couldn't talk about what happened downtown this year without at least mentioning the Downtown West project, the innovative and really kind of groundbreaking community benefit and development agreement that the council approved in May. As far as urban living goes, also some positive news. About 1,100 units have opened since July of 2019. We have about 1,600 units that are currently under construction. And kind of despite the rocky road over the last year, we're at about 65% occupancy of those 1,100 units that have opened since 2019. And coming up, we've got Miro. These are some photos of the inside of the units at Miro, which have already signed some leases, and we'll have residents moving in across the street from City Hall on August 1st. And the Grad, which is a block away from San Jose State University, has about 65% of their 1,000 beds occupied at this point. And we're looking forward to having more San Jose State students on campus in the fall for actual on-campus curriculum and academics. So I think what we really did see was kind of a disparate view of what was happening. The future is bright, but the on-the-ground situation was very tough. And this really, the mantra, I think, for businesses in the downtown, as well as in other parts of the city, was really depicted here and summed up on this window graphic at Second and Santa Clara, which people were just trying to stay alive. One of the things that was great was that the council implemented the Alfresco Program, which brought people's business operations outdoors. And you can see people really did enjoy that. There were about 30 businesses in the downtown core that participated in Alfresco. And also another program that people in the downtown used heavily was our Storefronts Assistance Grant Program. So also helping small business. About 14 of the 20 Storefronts grants, amounting to about 160,000, were given to downtown businesses over the last 2 years. We did talk about the amount of PPP loans that came into the city and into downtown. You can see on this slide, there were a number of businesses that did open or expand through the pandemic. And I want to just clarify the point that we were talking about before. So $556 million of PPP funds came into the 3 zip codes, 95110, 95112, and 95113. And there are portions of those zip codes that are in the downtown growth area. So what we were able to do specifically for this report was figure out, of the larger zip code, how many of those businesses are actually in the downtown growth area and how much money did they receive. And so of the businesses that were in the downtown growth area, it was 138 million in PPP. So not the full 556 was in the combined larger zip codes. So just hopefully that clarifies things a little bit in terms of the numbers. Obviously, we're going to see over the next 12 to 18 months, I think that's going to be the true test when the commercial eviction moratorium starts to be implemented and people are going to have to start paying back their rent by early 2022. I would say one of the really positive things that happened in the downtown over the last 2 years specifically is the explosion of art, both through the public sector and through private building owners. And so you can see that depiction here on this slide. We had the RBG mural on the building, the former Walgreens building, looking down Santa Clara Street. Mezcal had this beautiful, culturally exquisite mural painted on their building. And then through the Office of Cultural Affairs, we had the beautiful Mona Karen Convention Center mural, the 3rd Street Garage, and through the efforts led by Councilmember Perales and the formation of the community district on Post Street, we have this really awesome mural that depicts a lot of the champions of the LGBTQ+ community. Really just amazing. A number of storefronts also through our partners at Hella Gardens got facelifts. We did some projections and art and lighting installations over the winter months to just make sure that people stayed in downtown, stayed in people's relevance. And we're very much looking forward to the coming back of all of these events and conventions and theater activities over the next few months. We had our groundworks crew continuing to work through the pandemic. They provided service every day. We had our partners at PATH continuing to do outreach to the homeless and adjusting their service delivery model. And in fact, they had 600 more one-on-one kind of case management sessions this year than they did back in 2019. So everybody really stepped up their game. And in the public realm, kind of last but not least, many exciting things happening at the Guadalupe River Park with the Conservancy, a number of parks moving forward in the North San Pedro area towards construction. We have the SOFA Pocket Park combination downtown PBID and Vegilution moving forward. And in fact, the grand opening of that pocket park is day after tomorrow, the 30th at noon. And then we continue to move forward with the redesign of Park Avenue, working very closely with J. Paul Company and Urban Community and West Bank on implementing that vision. And so while it has been a tough year for businesses downtown, I think the council, received the information that from a sales tax perspective, downtown was hardest hit. Citywide sales tax revenues went down about 20% in downtown. They were down 50%. But despite those kind of negative indicators, downtown remains attractive to people for all of the variety of reasons that it was attractive to folks in 2019. And so we continue to work toward the betterment and I guess the coming back of some of the things that you see on this slide. And with that, we're trying to look towards the future, keep our glasses on because it's still bright. And I was really happy the last photo that I had here showed the tech shop in a little squat building behind this billboard. And today, we can see the tall high rise of the grad. So there's definitely progress. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Blage. It's good to see what's happening downtown and you can feel with the vaccinations and the activity, the vaccinations, there is a sense of freedom, and the opening of the state as of June 15th, people are free or feeling freer to go out and about and participate in restaurants, and our Alfresco program has really helped our businesses to thrive. I really look forward to personally the live entertainment, the theaters, particularly children's theaters, starting arts, children's musical theater, any of them, but any performers who can get out there and perform, because that's the last of the group that hasn't been able to get out there and present their art yet. Before I go to the committee, I'm going to go to the members of the public who have their hands raised. Blair.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thank you for this item. You know, this is like the first time I'm saying this, but you know, the East Side has been, I think, really decimated by the issue of COVID. And to talk about, you know, small business and the future of downtown, it's nice to hear. And you know, I'm really hopeful. You know, downtown, compared to other areas of the city, has a real kind of a mellow, down-to-earth practicality, kind of in how the people think. It's nice, and I think it offers a good balance to other parts of the city. And you know, I'm from the downtown area. I always like being around downtown San Jose. So good luck what you can do in the future. Yeah, I guess for this item, a consideration. You know, a few months ago there was a lot of worry of crime in the downtown area. You started to do more foot patrols and provide a few different police services. How is that going? Is it possible to give a bit of a report back at this time how that is going? And as always, there's now 6 big belly trash cans in the First Street corridor, First and Santa Clara. They're annoying to myself. I know they have a purpose, but I think they're a bit extreme to address the issues of San Jose. And so I just wanted to mention that. And if you do have the big bellies there, always practice open public policies with them. And that if you do have controversial apps in those big bellies, that, you know, have a review period that's short and quick and then immediate to review if those apps are working well, if they're standing up to good civil rights and civil protection ideas. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Paul Soto.
Yeah, also, looking at City View, all of these residentials that are going up, there's 2 perspectives. What you just showed me is basically the means by which the Mexican populations that have never had any point of healing from what happened in Taxaqueres, from what happened from the Red Line, from what has happened historically with the Mexicans. He has never had a point of rest in the city, ever, since 1846. Now, billions of dollars are coming to the city. Dave Paul, Jeff Aliaga, Gary Gillibo, Eric Hayden, Richie, all of these developers are spending billions of dollars in the city, buying up all the property that was purchased at the decapitation of the Native Americans and the Mexicans in this city, because it was the first state capital of California for the first 2 years in which they spent out the United States government $1 million to decapitate the Native population. That's what this city is being built on. And the people that are most vulnerable to the gentrification as a result of what I just saw, or what you just showed right now, are going to continually be victimized, humiliated, and walk away from the city with a sense of impotency and shame because they could not survive here because of what you just showed. This is a fact that you need to confront, that sign that you had on there that says the future is ours, I believe you because it's purchased. The future is now, exactly, because you can tell what the future is going to look like by looking at what you're seeing today.
Next caller, Peter Ortiz.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, honorable members of the City Council and committee. My name is Peter Ortiz, and I'm an East San Jose business advocate. I want to thank the city for the great work that you've done to benefit the residents, small business owners, and the economy of downtown San Jose. I want to make sure that I mention that this community is extremely important, we need to stress how crucial it is to get these services to our downtown residents. I think it's also just as important to raise how immense the impact of the pandemic has been to East San Jose and our economy. Our businesses have struggled throughout COVID-19 and have not benefited from many of the investments and resources that downtown has had access to. Areas like Alum Rock Corridor, Story Road Corridor, and not just District 5, but also the Monterey Corridor in District 7. These are all areas where small business owners have been struggling. They've been impacted due to vacant storefronts and lack of incentives for property owners to be working with business owners to fill those gaps. And when there's vacant storefronts, that's when blight comes into the neighborhood, and businesses have suffered due to that. So I want to thank Councilmember Carrasco for proposing the East San Jose Rescue Plan, and we're looking forward to those great resources coming to our side of town, like the small business manager. But I just wanted to make sure that people understand that small businesses are being impacted across the city, especially in our traditionally under-resourced communities like Eastside San Jose. Thanks again for the city and all of your great work to make sure that our small businesses have the resources they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Going to the committee, Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, thank you for the report. And obviously, we're well aware of what this last year has been on both our downtown core and really many of our economic driving areas in the city. And certainly, I think we're all optimistic on what the summer and this coming year will hopefully be able to bring for those businesses that were able to survive. It's unfortunate we've seen a lot of closures in the downtown core, but we have seen some new businesses, people ready to invest and occupy some of that vacant space. Unfortunately, we've seen that vacancy go up, so we're seeing more of that, and we were, I think, really on a decent path prior to the pandemic. I think that the glimmer of hope is that we're still seeing interest, at least in some of the investment areas and developments that went on pause that are now considering starting back up again, like Platform 16 behind the Target on Coleman. And that, I think, is a good indication of what's to come. And all of that is going to continue to hopefully drive the economy of downtown and help all these small businesses be able to get patrons back in. I know there's a lot of anxiety, even with City Hall coming back. Just myself being at City Hall a couple of days a week and going around downtown. I got my haircut right down on 4th and Santa Clara last week, and I know the individual there was stating that he's really excited and was wondering when City Hall was going to be back in business, and and just hoping to see more of the foot traffic and the employees that help all the restaurants and small businesses around downtown to thrive. And we saw with the past 2 weekends with downtown and the nightlife beginning to revive a little bit again, albeit we saw some violence spike as well with that. So we're hoping that we can curb that as people are getting back out and learning how to socialize with one another again. And so we're very hopeful with what's to come for the future, and thank you for the report on that. I'll move approval. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Councilmember Carrasco.
Thank you. I wanted to thank Blage for the report. I'm very hopeful now that I think you said it, Councilmember Foley, as people have been vaccinated, there's this sense of freedom that comes along with it. I hope people don't have a false sense of security though, and people are still, taking the precautions that are necessary. Because I don't think we're completely out of the danger zone, but I do think that there is a lot of freedom now that comes with it, and glad that we've all just pulled together to make sure that people get vaccinated and they have access to the vaccine. And I think the county and the city have done a fantastic job. So I want to thank all of you for all of the work that you've done in making sure that we're one of the most inoculated cities in the state of California. I also just want to make mention, I as you were giving the report and you were talking about, there's a slide there right in the beginning of the presentation, and if you could put it up, it's like in black and white, and it was just a little graphic that had like the growth and the culture and the diversity of downtown. I don't know if you have it up there.
Let me just go back.
Oh, I was
let me
gonna
go
say,
back to
frozen.
it.
I don't know if I.
No. Let me just go back to it so that I'm not. Well, I guess I'm just running through the whole report.
It's like one of the first slides, I think.
Yeah. Just give me one second. This one?
Yeah. And so as I was looking at that, just a few things that came to mind, and I just want to, I want to address it because I think it's fantastic to see this graph, the graphics and the numbers, and also to have the report be given today. And so in one of my budget documents, I asked for an East Side business manager because especially as we're trying to recover and post-pandemic and all that we know, I think it's really critical to have someone that is laser beam focused on the development and the recovery of the East Side. But even as you were talking about the diversity and the culture and everything that's happening in downtown, if I were to close my eyes, I'd swear you were talking about our Latino community or the east side of San Jose, or our Vietnamese community, who are rich in culture and businesses, and they're thriving, and there's this sense of entrepreneurship. And that's hard for a lot of people to envision that, because I don't think that we have given it the same platform or the same kind of advocacy. And I'm really glad to have Nancy here, because I know that this is a downtown report, but I'm really excited about getting someone on the east side to do exactly what's been going on downtown, and wondering how soon we're going to be able to get that started. Because again, to see what's happening downtown, I can envision this expanding itself to the east side of San Jose, to Councilmember Esparza's district, really becoming a model probably to a lot of those communities that have been hard hit, and then advocating next year for an expansion of something very similar to this.
Hi, council member. Thank you for the question. So we have a team, sorry for the echo here, a team of internal staff that are hiring for I think it's almost 90 positions. OED will be in the first tranche. And I believe the specific commitment we made to you in the budget was that at least 40%, if not more, of the dollars that would be expended through EDA efforts, which were expanded in the budget, would make sure to be expended on the east side. So we're hoping to be very soon. I don't exactly know what that'd be in the time of day, number of days, council member, but as soon as possible, a couple months, I hope max, to get the additional staff to keep moving on what we very much want to deliver in business services and outreach and collaboration.
Sorry, but so in order to get this going on the east side, we're looking to hire someone, or we're just shifting?
We'll be working with staff. I'm not sure why I have an echo. I'm so sorry. We'll be continuing on with the efforts that you heard us speak about over time, but we are scheduled to hire 2 more for temp U positions for outreach with this budget.
Okay, we'll go ahead and have that ongoing discussion offline. I'm just excited because I do see a lot of potential, which I think has been a great model for downtown, that has allowed downtown. Downtown is in a prime position anyway, but I think having a downtown manager has allowed downtown to truly strive and reach its potential in many ways. And I think that there's still a lot of work that can be done, and be able to expand that to those areas where we see the same potential. Eastside is one of them. But I think, Blage, you've done a fantastic job. And in so many other ways, because we've seen other events come through, or other historical moments that we've been able to host, and it has helped to have someone there managing, guiding, supporting, hosting, and being the bridge from our businesses downtown to directly to the city of San Jose. Without skipping a beat, without losing that relationship. I think it's a critical partnership that had it not been there, I don't think that they're not. I think they're incredibly savvy, but I think without that partnership, you could not advance, especially during this time, which has been so damaging to so many of our businesses. And not just the businesses, but the sense of cohesiveness that we need to continue fostering. So anyway, thank you so much for the report, and we'll continue the conversation, Nancy.
Thank you. Councilmember Mahan.
Thanks, Chair. Apologies to everyone for having my video off. I've been having some internet issues as well today. Just one quick question. I appreciate my colleagues' comments. I was curious about the 65% occupancy rate on the residential units, and that seems quite low, but I was curious if we have any kind of historical benchmarking data to better understand what that means, and any trend data on kind of how it's looking going forward.
So thanks, Councilmember, for the question. We don't really have historical data, and just to clarify, it's just of the housing that's opened over the last 2 years. So it's not over, and sorry for any sorry for any miscommunication there. It's only for the 4 or 5 developments that have opened over the last 2 years, and quite honestly, the largest one of them. Because I wasn't considering Miro open yet, that'll start in August, but the largest one of them was the Grad with the 1,000 beds. And so they have about 600 of those beds, filled out, despite the fact that San Jose State University, hasn't been in person for this past year. So it's not It
Okay.
actually, I think, given all the circumstances and given the fact that it's only for those developments that have opened in the past 2 years, I think we're doing okay there.
Good. Okay. That makes a lot more sense. Thanks. Thank you for clarifying. I appreciate it.
Sure.
That's all I had, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, I just want to echo the appreciation for Blage and what it has meant to have a downtown manager. And I would agree with Councilmember Carrasco that, there are likely many different business districts, corridors, areas, right, throughout our city that could really benefit from a similar position. I can't even list over the years the things that I believe would not have been possible without Blage being there to help assist. And so I would just, I echo what Councilmember Carrasco is fighting for, and I appreciate that. And I think that we certainly should strive to see that in many other places throughout our city. And I look forward to that effort that she's pushing over in East Side as well.
That's great. Thank you very much. Blage, thank you for your report and for what looks like hopefully a recovering downtown. I look forward to the apartment building across from City Hall being occupied and San Jose State students coming back in full force in the fall. That will both City Hall being reopened and San Jose State being reopened will really re-energize that downtown area dramatically. I know I've been thinking about restaurants, my line of restaurants that I want to go to when I'm back at City Hall.
Absolutely.
With that, let's vote.
Carrasco,
Aye.
Perales,
Yes.
Mahan,
Aye.
Esparza,
Yes.
and Foley.
Aye. Okay, the last item is the council policy priority 7, which is a review of the cannabis land use and regulatory provisions. This is coming back to us after a couple months ago. We had a presentation. We tweaked it a little bit, sent it back to staff, and now we have it back again. Jared, since you popped up, are you making this presentation?
Wendy is going to start the presentation for us.
Okay, great.
I'll be presenting with.
Okay. Thank you, Wendy. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, good afternoon. I'm Wendy Salazzi, the Division Manager from the Police Department's Division of Cannabis Regulation. With me today from the Police Department is Sergeant Dave Woolsey, and from Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement are Jared Hart, Alexander Hughes, and Stephen Solorio. And from the City Manager's Office is Peter Hamilton. So thank you all for your assistance with this policy work and for being here today. We're going to discuss some of the various options, as Councilmember Foley said, regarding the City Council Policy Priority number 7, the cannabis land use and regulation. And so just briefly as a reminder, what our current program is with our 16 registered dispensaries, and there's some of the details of the program. We'll kind of skip through that to get to what the direction was on the next slide. And so you can see that what we came back with today is assessing allowing current cannabis businesses to open a second retail location, maintaining 1,000-foot setback from sensitive areas, analyzing options for setback from residential housing, including options for the downtown core and urban villages, prohibiting new cannabis retail storefronts from opening in police beats with crime reports 20% above the average of reported crimes, including options for downtown core, requiring 1,000-foot separation between new retail storefronts, and assessing allowing 5 new equity-owned businesses. For most of the presentation, I'm going to turn it over to Jared to show you a lot of our zoning options, including maps and illustrations for your consideration before we open up the discussion. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jared.
All right, thanks, Wendy. So Jared Hart, Division Manager for Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement. Just want to quickly recognize Supervising Planner Martina Davis and her team who have been leading this work for citywide planning in coordination with Wendy and the Police Department. One of the one of the items the committee directed us to reevaluate in the past meeting in April on this item is the residential setback measurement. Currently, the requirement is 150 feet from property line to property line. There's not a huge constraint in finding a suitable site in industrial zoning districts because those tend to be further away from residences. However, commercial areas tend to be in much closer proximity to residences. So in April, we shared with the committee that if all current setbacks requirements for cannabis businesses are retained, including the 150-foot residential distance, we found approximately 120 eligible sites. It's important to remember that the number of eligible sites we're presenting today is just a snapshot in time of what sites are zoned appropriately and meet the distance requirements, reflecting the best information and data we have available at a citywide level. We didn't look at whether sites were actually developed with a commercial building that would be suitable for a cannabis business, or if the property is actually for lease or available. In order to receive a complete registration for a cannabis business from the police department, they must obtain, any business must obtain a zoning verification certificate that involves a closer look at sensitive receptors in place at the time of applying for that certificate. Through this process, additional sites may be found to be eligible, or a closer look may find some sites be flagged as eligible, now may no longer be eligible. I also want to note that there really is no right or wrong way to do the residential distance requirements. Each way of doing it, measuring it has pros and cons. So we just wanted to, want to show the committee some options to potentially go with. At direction from the committee, we looked at ways to measure the distance and came up with the following options. No setback requirement was the least restrictive alternative that we looked at, which increases eligible sites by tenfold, resulting in approximately 1,200 eligible sites. Being aware of the concern that many residents expressed to us through the online survey about proximity of cannabis businesses to homes, we looked at two alternative ways of measuring the residential distance, which are a parcel to building envelope and a pedestrian path of travel from business entrance to the residential property line. We don't have the data available to be able to map out eligible sites using these alternative measurements. So the best way to analyze this is really through examples. So on the following slides, I'm going to show you how the various measurement options look on 3 sample sites. These sites are being used for illustrative discussion purposes only, and cannabis use has not been proposed on these sites. We chose these sites as representative examples of commercial areas in San Jose. The first 2 example sites used to actually have cannabis businesses before we adopted the current zoning and regulatory framework. So we thought these would be good representations of the kind of locations where a cannabis business might want to locate. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so our first example is at 991 Saratoga Avenue. It's a small commercial building near the intersection of Saratoga and Williams. So here's the building from Saratoga Avenue, so you can kind of see what, on the ground view, what we're looking at. Next slide. So first, we're going to show you what this example would look like with the parcel to parcel measurement. You can see here that it would not qualify under the 150-foot requirement. It's 108 feet measurement, parcel to parcel. Next slide. So here's what a building envelope to parcel measurement looks like. So in this example, there's some parking behind the building. So measuring from the building to the residential property line would make this site qualify. However, this way of measuring distance, really doesn't take into account real world conditions where residents, may be pretty close to a commercial property, but there's barriers that make actual access, much further to the cannabis business. So you can see in this example, there's two fences. This is a pedestrian path of travel example. You can see there's two fences in a property with a parking lot between the closest residential property and the potential cannabis business location. When you actually look at how someone would travel from the cannabis business to a nearby residence, it's a much further distance, in this case, 350 feet. Next slide. This picture just shows again, what we're talking about from the aerial and the barriers here. It shows that the residential interface and the barriers between the residents and the potential business location. Okay, so another example is a kind of similar example that's pretty typical of commercial areas in San Jose, where the commercial businesses front a major street, and then there's a residential neighborhood behind. In this example, we're looking at a tenant space that is now part of Jean's Palace. Also in this example, you can see that part of the commercial center would be excluded due to the proximity to Lincoln High School, but part of it is outside the 1,000-foot radius of the school, and that's the subject of our example. Once again, using the parcel-to-parcel measurement, this shopping center would be excluded. You can see the measurement there is 30 feet away from the closest parcel-to-parcel closest residence. Measuring from the building wouldn't make much of a difference here in this example because the building is also close to the property line, so it measures at 90 feet. And then looking at the pedestrian path of travel example, so the commercial buildings front onto San Carlos with no public access in the back and a fence across the entire property line. So when you measure the path of travel, the distance to the nearest residence increases to 390 feet. Here's just, here's a couple pictures of what the residential interface actually looks like on the ground. You can see the sound wall, the retaining wall there, sound wall behind the building, separating the residents. And there's another angle of the residential interface. Okay, so for our third example and final example, we wanted to show an example of how the different distance measurements work on a larger site. We're looking at one of the buildings at the Westgate Shopping Center on Saratoga Ave. So in this example, we're imagining the Buffalo Wild Wings is the location of the cannabis dispensary. You can see the nearest residential property line is across Saratoga Avenue, a little less than 150 feet away. The building to property line measurement doesn't make a difference here in this scenario, since the property lines and the building envelopes are really largely the same. And however, in this example, there's no crossing along most of that stretch of Saratoga Avenue. And this is a kind of on the ground picture. You can see there's from the building, there's no kind of direct way to cross across Saratoga Avenue. So this is another example of how things kind of change when you look at the pedestrian path of travel. So if you use that pedestrian path of travel measurement from the closest public entrance to the business to the closest residential property, the distance increases considerably here from 145 feet to almost 900 feet. So should the committee choose to retain a residential setback, staff recommends going with the path of travel measurement and increasing it to 300 feet. Of all the options we looked at, we feel like this best takes into account real world conditions and remains sensitive to resident concerns about close proximity to cannabis businesses. Okay, so per committee direction in April, staff also looked at various setback options for the downtown. As a reminder, the state of California requires a minimum setback of 600 feet from K through 12 schools, daycare centers, or youth centers. So first, staff looked at how many sites would be eligible if only the residential setback was removed. Now, given the dense and relatively small nature of downtown, staff found only 2 potentially eligible sites if the residential setback requirement was eliminated, but all the other setbacks were retained. Setbacks to parks was probably the biggest constraint, other than the residential setback, but they all affect site availability. So given that, staff focused our analysis on maintaining setbacks to only the 3 state required items, which are, again, the K through 12 schools, youth centers, and daycare centers. The scenarios we're going to show you assume no setbacks to parks, community and recreation centers, libraries, substance abuse rehabilitation centers, emergency residential shelters, and residences. Although the committee could still direct staff to retain setbacks from any of these items. The committee should also consider, whether to, removing the restriction from businesses locating in police beats with crime reporting 20% above average, and establishing a distance requirement between cannabis businesses. Staff recommends 1,000 feet between businesses in other areas, but it's difficult to know how many potential location options will be available if the same distance requirements are used in the downtown core, given the relatively small nature of downtown. So our first option here we're looking at, we're showing you, this is the most restrictive option. This option retains the 1,000-foot distance from K through 12 schools, daycare centers, and youth centers. This would keep the setback distance requirement from these 3 items in line with the requirement outside of downtown. This resulted in approximately 273 potential parcels if the police beat exclusion was removed from downtown. It's 73 sites if the police beat exclusion is retained. The police beat exclusion we're showing you uses 2020 data and is subject to change annually. The next option retains the 1,000 feet from schools, but then reduces the setback to daycare centers and youth centers to the state minimum 600 feet. We want to look at this option that retains the greater distance from schools, given the particular sensitivity around access to children and teens. This option results in 427 potential parcels without the police beat exclusion and 176 if it's retained. So the most permissive option we looked at here was going with just the state minimum of 600 feet to schools, daycare centers, and youth centers. This resulted in 453 potential parcels without the police beat exclusion and 190 parcels if it's retained. As a reminder, all these numbers are just sites that meet the distance criteria based on the data we have available at this time. We didn't look at site conditions that may or may not make a cannabis business make sense at any specific location based on how the property is developed. So again, the state of California requires a minimum setback of 600 feet from K through 12 schools, daycare centers, and youth centers. Concern over proximity and exposure of cannabis to children and teens was raised frequently in the comments submitted by the public on in our online survey. Based on CED feedback and further analysis, staff proposes aligning the city's setback distances with the state rules by eliminating certain setbacks in the downtown core. However, staff recommends maintaining the 1,000-foot setback instead of decreasing it to 600 feet for K through 12 schools. So that's shown on option 1 or 2 is shown on this slide here. Staff found that requiring any separation from a cannabis business to residents would be prohibitive. Alternative means of measurement, such as pedestrian path of travel, really didn't change that at all. To provide options for cannabis businesses to locate downtown, the City Council may want to consider removing the distance requirement to residences. Staff also notes the 1,000-foot distance requirement from one cannabis business to another may affect eligible locations downtown, but it's not possible to analyze the impacts of this now because it's unknown exactly where cannabis business might locate in the future. The committee could consider removing the 1,000-foot distance requirement between cannabis businesses for downtown, or direct staff to retain it to prevent cannabis businesses from concentrating in one area of downtown, with direction to explore modifying this requirement later, should it be prohibited. Next slide. So similar to the downtown core analysis, staff looked at various urban village setback options, and this was another follow-up from the April CED meeting. Staff analyzed various setback options for K through 12 schools, daycare and youth centers, parks, community and recreation centers, libraries, substance abuse rehabilitation centers, and emergency residential shelters, as well as residential uses. The difference really between urban villages and downtown is that urban villages are an ongoing planning strategy where urban villages are still being developed, and many of them are currently have lower density development patterns that look more like the rest of the city. Overall, the general plan identifies approximately 60 urban villages, but until an urban village plan is adopted, these areas don't start to see that more kind of urban style of development. So at this time, 13 urban villages have adopted plans. So staff recommends that any modification setback standards for urban villages apply only to urban villages that have approved plans. And that's what we focused our analysis on. Other options to consider would be prohibiting cannabis businesses in police beats with crime reports 20% or more above average reported crime, and establishing a distance requirement between cannabis businesses. Based on CED committee feedback in April and further analysis, staff proposes eliminating the residential setback in urban villages. Staff proposes maintaining the 1,000-foot distance to K through 12 schools, youth centers, daycare centers, parks, community and recreation centers. Staff also recommends maintaining the 500-foot distance to substance abuse rehabilitation centers and emergency residential shelters. Staff recommends prohibiting new cannabis retail storefronts from opening in police beats with crime reports 20% above the average of reported crimes in urban villages as well. With the exclusion, there are approximately 243 possible sites. Without that exclusion, there's 275. So not a very large difference. We've shown a few alternatives on the slide that the committee may want to consider. And now I'm going to pass it back to Wendy to complete the presentation.
Thank you, Jared. So our recommendation, again, we are still sticking with our recommendation to have the 16 registered businesses relocate their retail storefront operations to the expanded commercial retail zoning districts. However, council definitely can make the suggestion, and the committee here today can ask us to move forward with it, allowing each of the 16 registered businesses to open a second retail storefront location. And if that does happen, we definitely will have to look at changing our staffing levels. So we would have to bring that back to council for discussion. We are also looking currently the distance requirement between our retail storefront dispensaries are 50 feet because they're located in the industrial zones. But once we open it up to moving it to commercial and the retail zoning, we like to increase it to 1,000 feet. And staff recommendation is to allow 5 equity businesses to register for either retail storefront or non-storefront, which is a delivery only business. And then again, another alternative to that is have the equity businesses register just as a delivery only business. So with that, we kind of conclude our presentation and want to open it up to discussion. And just a reminder that we have conducted a CEQA study. I think Jared's team is kind of rounding out that process now. And our hope is to present the proposed zoning changes to the Planning Commission in July and bring recommendations to full City Council in August. So with that, we're available for questions.
Wendy and Jared, thank you for that presentation. I'll turn to members of the public to see if anyone has any comments. Whoops. Do we have anybody with their hands raised? Blair? You have 2 minutes.
Hi, thank you for this item. I wish I knew more about this subject, and I don't. So, but I'm listening, and thank you. I wanted to quickly offer that on the one of the first items, for the business small business issues, the presenter Elizabeth, her microphone wasn't too good. And
Blair, we're talking about the
I know,
cannabis
this
Can
isn't
you
the best time. This isn't the best time to do that, but I just thought I would bring that out here and at this time. But if you can pass that along, that'd be great. I'm trying to think of what else I may have to say about this issue. I was interested to learn that you are reporting on crime between urban villages and not urban villages. And if I heard correctly, there was a 20% less crime in urban villages, which would be kind of what you're shooting for, I'm thinking, in this life. I hope I heard that correctly. And if I did, congratulations to some. I'm not a big fan of urban villages myself. I like the plaza idea of what can be an urban village, and I guess there's work around it, and it's a learning process. And so you reported some interesting statistics today, and a thank you to, I guess, the learning process we can all be going through with the future of urban villages in our lives in San Jose. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Next speaker is Sean.
Good afternoon, council members. Sean Kelly-Rye, Silicon Valley Cannabis Alliance. I want to thank Chair Foley, Councilmember Perales, and Councilmember Carrasco. Without their 3 memos, gosh, back in like 2017, a whole different era ago, feels like, this would never be coming forward. So thank you for your vision, and thank you for your tenacity in bringing this forward. I want to thank staff also for their diligence in bringing this forward, and their hard work and the outreach to the cannabis dispensaries and the industry at large. Specifically regarding the recommendations, the industry would like to see existing retailers receive a second license. So we hope that you would support the expansion of the cannabis program in San Jose. It's worked well over the last 6 years. And we hope that you will allow current 16 operators expand with a second location. The other item that I'd like to bring forward is that the least amount of restrictions on setbacks is best. Although there's 1,200 parcels available, that doesn't identified, that doesn't mean that they're all available. It just means that they're identified. If you look at a 10% vacancy rate, and then you look at which parcels will actually allow cannabis, you'll probably end up with less than 100. And even at that, even less than those will actually be available. Finally, I'd like to ask that you consider and adopt Councilmember Mahan's recommendations. They're thoughtful, and they try to address the social equity issue, and they try to also address the vulture capitalism that's happening and the vulture investments that are happening in the cannabis equity space, especially in storefront retail. Wendy is well aware of this, as this is an industry-wide problem. And so if you'd like further amplification, I'm available for questions, but I want to thank you all and make those recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. William Armeline.
Hello, council members.
Oops, you're muted.
Thanks.
There you go.
Hi, council members. I'm happy to be here. I'm Will Armeline. I'm the director of the Human Rights Institute at San Jose State. I've worked with some of you sort of behind the scenes on this issue for some time, and we we've been invested in this issue both on the side of equity and record clearance throughout the state since sort of its inception. So we're very happy to hear that the council is taking on this issue, and we're happy to see the possibility of equity licenses actually moving forward, which is something we've been working for a long time. So I want to actually speak to a couple of issues in the Mahood memo, which I think has some really good things in it. In fact, one is the Community Investment Fund, which I want to point out is one of the sort of unrealized issues from Prop 64, both at the state and local level. And I very much want to encourage as much of that investment as I possibly can. As again, I think in terms of the restorative justice aspects of that policy, this is something that's an opportunity still unrealized. Second of all, I do like a conversation about delivery licenses for equity populations as well, because having worked with the San Jose Equity Working Group, I can say that a majority of the folks who were in that group were invested and interested in delivery licenses. And so that was another aspect of the memo that I just wanted to say would be reflected in our work and observing those that were in the quote unquote equity community. And lastly, I just want to say that I very much appreciate and would like to see efforts to protect equity folks from any sort of exploitation in terms of investors and business partners in the licensing process. Thank you very much. And again, we appreciate your time and coming back to the issue.
Thank you very much. Next is Hirsch Jane.
Hi, council members and hi, staff. This is Hirsch Jane from Kaliva. Just wanted to call in and first just thank council and staff. You know, we're very encouraged that the city is considering allowing the 16 existing retailers to relocate. We've been a part of the District 7 community for a long time, but we think this expanded zoning really has the potential to, you know, help improve San Jose's already robust cannabis market. So really want to thank staff and the council for sort of their support of that proposal. And I'd also like to say that, you know, we're encouraged that the city is considering issuing second licenses to the existing retailers. You know, a lot of us have been in this community for a long time, and we would prefer to continue to expand in our own community. And we believe the San Jose market has the ability to support that much greater number of retailers. So we're encouraged that the city is considering that as well. I just want to wrap up by saying that, you know, we also support a lot of the proposals that are in Councilmember Mahan's memo, particularly the Community Investment Fund, as Dr. Armelin just articulated as being one of the, you know, real key elements of Prop 64 that's been unrealized. So we're very supportive of that proposal. And in addition, the fact that licenses will be made available to equity operators who want to do delivery. The barrier to entry for delivery operations is much lower than it is for other license types. And so there's the hope that those businesses can get operational, whereas in other cities, you know, sometimes 3 years after an ordinance is passed, none of those stores have gotten operational. So I guess to summarize, thank you to, you know, the council and to staff for all your leadership on this issue, and really excited to see how the San Jose cannabis ecosystem develops in the coming years. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Conrad Gregory.
Yes, hi. Hello, council members. This is Conrad Gregory from Harborside. We've been operating in San Jose for quite some time, and I really just want to thank everyone for putting in the time and effort to bring forward a lot of this reporting and analysis. And, you know, I know it's been a long time coming in terms of these discussions, and obviously the pandemic had an effect on the timing of moving things through at the local level. But this is an important discussion that needs to happen in San Jose as the industry continues to evolve and the market continues to mature. And in particular, the idea of a second retail location for the existing 16 licensees in San Jose is a great idea, and I would encourage you all to really consider that, in part because it ensures that the folks of San Jose are served, because San Jose is one of the largest cities in the state with a relatively small number of dispensaries in it, and there's a lot of areas that are not served in terms of having access to legal and safe cannabis. And I would also echo a lot of previous speakers that have commended parts in the Mahan memo. Mahan's memo. I think there's a lot of good recommendations in there, and in particular, the idea that some of the equity folks would benefit possibly more from having access to licenses that were non-storefront, delivery only licenses, because of the ease with which you can get something like that operational, and also not having to bring in large investment backers, which can be complicated, possibly predatory down the road, and it gets tricky quickly. And then finally, on the zoning, please be expansive as you can, because real estate is the hardest thing to do in cannabis. One of.
Thank you. Turning back to the committee then, the Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. And I appreciate staff as well coming back with this analysis. This is much more in line with, I think, what the committee was hoping to see. And so I appreciate the analysis and the graphics as well, kind of demonstrating why something like using that parcel to parcel measurement, especially with such a large number on residential setbacks, maybe is not the best way to go about restricting or authorizing locations. And I think that was very evident in the graphics that you showed. In regards to the residential setback, you mentioned your recommendation as 300 feet using the shortest pedestrian path of travel. And I wanted to see, you didn't list in your alternatives using 150 feet. You used just removing the residential setback altogether as the least restrictive. Where did you come up with the 300 as kind of to land on? How was that the spot to land?
Thank you, Councilmember Perales. Yeah, with that, I think we felt that is kind of saw in the examples is that typically that path of travel results in quite a bit further distance. So we were trying to balance the input we got from the online survey, in terms of distance from residential uses, but also kind of look at loosening up those restrictions. So it just seemed like, as we worked through the analysis, that it made sense. It's kind of balancing using that method, but then increasing the distance to keep the number of parcels that would be eligible still at a reasonable level.
Okay, and I think just kind of looking back at the examples that you gave, we had 350 and 390. What was the last one there? It was 800 or something like that, right? It was quite a bit. 898, almost 900. So in those examples that you gave, 300 would be sufficient, but those are just the examples you had provided. I guess I was, I definitely was interested in kind of seeing what that would look like for just removing the residential setback, aligning a little bit more with the state, but I recognize that our community expressed some interest in having a setback here, and I do really like using this shortest pedestrian path of travel. I think that is very fair. I would be, even more comfortable maybe with, or I guess I should say I'd be still comfortable with reducing that measurement down to 150 feet versus 300, but I don't really, have an indication of what that difference would be. So I don't know if you have done that analysis or you have it easily top of hand, but if you do, great, share it. If not, I think that would be something I'd be interested in seeing and how much that makes a difference.
Thanks. Yeah, and so with the, I think if we remove the residential, requirement altogether, we ended up with about 1,200 sites, and then, the 150 or 300 would fall somewhere in between that. The difficulty is that we didn't have a way to measure the path of travel on like a site by site basis. We kind of had to use examples just based on the tools we have available. Because of that measurement, you actually have to kind of get down on the ground and draw that path of travel, and we weren't able to automate that.
Okay, that makes sense. And yeah, even more so. I mean, I was interested in hearing like discussion on this, just removing the residential altogether, which I don't know if at the moment I'd be willing to support that completely. I do like the idea of having having some component here on residential, and especially when it only incorporates the shortest pedestrian path of travel. I'm just not certain if I'm solid on 300, and it sounds like we don't really have an indication of where that will make a difference, because then we'd have to go out there and measure every single one. So I understand why then you wouldn't have that answer. So I think knowing that, I'd be more comfortable with reducing that number then down to 150 feet. Or even potentially, do we, I may consider supporting just removing the residential setback altogether. But at the moment, I would like to see something where we lower that 300 to 150. In regards to the downtown core, just going down the order of the presentation slides here, really appreciate the 3 different options, kind of laying out the challenges there, and then seeing what those differences make. I think that it was important to see how the opportunity sites would grow and where they would grow, especially as you removed some of those barriers like the parks, community and recreation, and libraries, which, as we know, is in addition over and above what the state requires, and obviously indeed almost double the feet. And so I definitely was interested in opening up the downtown core, and I would like to to sort of see how we can continue to do that, especially with this the other option to consider, as you pointed out, which was the distance between cannabis businesses. I understand why we want to have that, especially as we've seen some of these other cannabis businesses really concentrate in particular areas. But in the downtown core, I do think it would be worthwhile to consider either removing it or at least minimizing that. So certainly not having 1,000 feet within the downtown core, but maybe shrinking that down. I think there's value in having some some distance, so that way there's also not some accumulation within the downtown core. I don't have a distance to recommend at the moment, but I certainly would say much less than 1,000 feet. And maybe we're even getting closer to to below even the 600 feet, and looking at how we can ensure there's not cumulative businesses in the same area, but yet we still have a lot of opportunities in and around the downtown core. And I think I would be comfortable as well with something around like an option 2, or something that's kind of a hybrid that still keeps a good distance from K through 12 schools. I think we've heard that, and if that's going to be a major, I think, sticking point for our community, I think we open up a lot of opportunities by removing other barriers, like decreasing the distance from daycares and youth centers, and then completely eliminating it from parks, community recreation, libraries, and then the residential as well. I think the one other point of interest for me was this without the police beat exclusion. And this is something that comes into conversation a lot within the downtown core, especially with businesses that are selling alcohol, because we have clearly the nightclub entertainment district within the downtown core. And I think that's something that obviously it's not measured the same way as it's measured throughout the rest of the city in more suburban areas, or even in business corridors, but then are not necessarily have the propensity of entertainment as an entertainment district. And so I do think that would be worthwhile. And you see the large increase of opportunity sites open up once you remove that exclusion. And in my mind, you can do that, and you can still keep the great distance between sites and K through 12 schools at 1,000 feet, which again goes above and beyond the state, but it completely sort of opens up I think the opportunities from where we were before. You're looking at 176 on that option 2, open it up to 427. And I think if we then additionally put in a lesser restriction than the 1,000 feet, going down maybe 600 or even less between cannabis businesses, then I think we keep that number still fairly high. Around the urban villages, I would echo it's kind of a same sentiment. I think keeping really heavy restrictions in these urban villages is only going to push these, the cannabis industry closer to other areas that maybe we would prefer them not be. And in my mind, the urban villages, as we know, these growth areas are supposed to have great retail within those developments. And so I'd like to see that we're also looking at those alternatives. And so I know that the current staff recommendation is, in my mind, pretty limited. It does reduce or eliminate the residential, but I think we may want to consider something like an alternative 1 with urban villages that we could even keep in there the 500 feet for substance abuse rehab centers, in my mind, but maybe eliminating the parks, community recreation centers, and as that extra 1,000 feet. And I think that we certainly should be pushing more than the current recommendation that staff has there, over to one of the alternatives, like alternative 1. And then in regards to the retail storefront, I'll kick over to Councilmember Mahan's memo just to kind of address that, because I'm supportive of the staff recommendation, but I see in Councilmember Mahan's memo, he's talking about allowing 10 new equity-owned non-storefront delivery businesses instead of the 5 storefront businesses as recommended. Now, I may have interpreted this wrong, but my interpretation of the staff recommendations is that the 5 new businesses could be storefront or non-storefront, correct? They could be either or.
Correct. That's what our recommendation is.
Okay. So what I'm not in favor of on Councilor Mahan's memo is taking out the opportunity of, owning a storefront, a brick and mortar for these new equity owned businesses. I recognize the challenge that we've had with these, people coming in and using somebody with the equity owned title and as a straw man, and then some other entity is really owning and operating with just giving a percentage over. I want to avoid that as well. So I want to see if there's a way we can, address that issue, but not necessarily just cut the opportunity right at the legs of these new potential equity-owned operators for them to have an opportunity to own a storefront. I don't think that's the right way to go. I think that we need to keep that opportunity in there for both storefronts and delivery or delivery only. And I would be comfortable with, with doing something like 10, but saying it's a 5 and 5 kind of deal versus the 5 that we have today. And we say, hey, we have an opportunity of 5 new equity owned storefronts businesses, and then also 5 non-storefront delivery only businesses. So that's something I would be more comfortable with, but I wouldn't be comfortable just completely eliminating the opportunity for these equity owners to have a storefront. And then in regards to the potential for a policy or a funding goal with a certain percentage of the general funds coming from the cannabis tax revenues, that's actually a conversation my colleagues and I had a couple years ago when we lost the vote at the budget 6-5 on trying to get money to address some of these equity issues within the city. And one of the revenue sources we discussed was the cannabis tax revenues, especially with the potential growth that we saw there and the opportunities of growth. And so for me, that's a huge interest. So I definitely would support that opportunity. I still think that is there. And with the growth in this industry, as we are hopefully going to see with this decision we'll be making on these items and the growth opportunities, I think we absolutely should be considering that. What I'm not in favor of, though, is the suggestion of some of the where those funds should go, with the early suggestion. And I know Councilor Mahan is just saying, hey, that these it's not limited to these, but I would say it necessarily shouldn't even include them whatsoever. San Jose Promise, San Jose Learns, San Jose Works, San Jose Aspires. Those are all one-off, one-time or opportunities that are not necessarily addressing the real root cause of inequities, things that we have an opportunity at a council to do. And we had this debate a couple years ago at the budget as well, where we discussed with the mayor, as he had proposed the same thing. It was his suggestion that, you know, we were addressing equity because we were funding programs like this. These are good programs, don't get me wrong, but they're not programs that are addressing the true inequities that we have throughout our government systems here. And if we're going to be shaving off some of these tax dollars to do that, which I would agree we should, and you know, again, as it was pointed out in Councilor Mahan's memos, that some of the disproportionate impacts, like things like the war on drugs on communities of color, but I would go much further than that and say all the other sort of disproportionate impacts on communities of color, then I think that we need to be much broader in our thinking on how we would use those dollars. And we should not be looking at just these one-time, one-off projects that we've created over the years to offer, you know, limited opportunities to youth year over year that in my mind doesn't address any of those root causes of inequities. So I would be in favor of that, the initial concept of that, but just not if it, you know, definitely not necessarily including that early language of where the funding would go. So I'm happy to make a motion, and this is get a little difficult, so excuse me, but it would be to accept the staff recommendations with some of the amendments that I've included here, and that would be, let me get back to the early indication here. On the residential setback, it would be at the moment moving it from 300 feet down to 150 feet, and that's measuring the shortest pedestrian path of travel, with also the option of potentially just removing the residential setback altogether. In the downtown core, it would be the option of option 2, which would then also include the excluding not including, I should say, the police beat exclusion areas. So that 427 parcel option, and then as well considering a much lower barrier, or excuse me, a distance between cannabis businesses. Again, that would be different from the rest of the city. And the suggestion could be a half maybe of where we're at today, which is the 1,000, excuse me. And so going down to something like 500 feet. And then the option in the urban villages as well, I think my recommendation would be alternative 1. And then in regards to the retail storefront, non-storefront, and Councilor Mahan's memo, I would suggest the 10 new equity owned, but having 5 and 5 storefront, and then non-storefront, and then definitely, and recommendation 2 from Councilor Mahan's memo, that the first part of the language there on shaving off, you know, some of these actual revenues to address these inequities, but then I would eliminate the language on suggesting any current, you know, direction for those dollars. I think we could debate that as well in the future later, and then including recommendation 3, because that just asks for those conversations to come back to the council. That's the motion. Thanks.
Okay, is there a second?
I have a question. I'd like to second it, but I have a question. So the downtown, let me just make sure I captured this correctly because I was scribbling. So the downtown core is option 2. The setbacks on option 2, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and then the urban villages is where is it? Alternative number 1.
That was correct. That was, yeah.
So alternative number 1 would eliminate a 500-foot setback from substance abuse rehabilitation centers and emergency residential shelters.
Oh yeah, sorry, I had made that comment in my comments, but I forgot to make it in the motion that we could include that. Put that back in. Yeah.
Okay, so keep the substance abuse and shelters back in. Okay, got it. And then it's to lower the distance in the in the downtown core. It's to lower the distance between dispensary or sites from 1,000 to 500 feet. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And then I wanted to ask a question about the residential options. So I've had to, because of some other discussions that we've had, the council have actually mapped out quite a bit of scenarios in my own district in terms of what 150 feet looks like. That's 4 lanes. So that's 2 lanes, right, on either side of the street. That it would be possible to have a cannabis center. Could we look at what would be, I mean, could we keep the 300 and keep the other modifications? Councilmember Peralez?
Yeah, let me just take so you're talking specifically on the residential setback on the 300 feet shortest pedestrian path, keeping it 300 versus going to 150 is what you're suggesting.
Yeah, and that comes from, again, my own work mapping out some things. 150 feet is essentially across the street. It's not across a 1-lane street, but it's across a street.
Yeah, I guess I didn't have a good indication from staff on what the actual numbers would decrease to. That's what I was trying to ask them right on. Is there a difference between 300 and 150? So I can't honestly tell you that 150 is better than 300 as it is anyways. And I don't know if staff is going to be able to. So I'm not dead set on that 150. I'd be comfortable with 300. I also was stating right that I'm comfortable with decreasing that, especially if it's going to open up opportunities for us. But it doesn't sound like it's going to be easy to analyze that at the moment. So I'm not stuck on that 150. I'm comfortable moving. I would also potentially, as we come to the council, I may be comfortable going back to 150, but I'm fine for now for purposes of the motion to move it up as a recommendation back to 300.
Okay. In that case, I'm happy to second it. I just need clarity in all the different moving parts. So thank you.
You're welcome. And then I also want to just make sure, be clear that the rest of the staff recommendations would be included in my recommendation as well. Things like the allowing the 16 registered businesses to relocate their operations to expand as well.
Councilmember Peralez, I need a clarification on that if I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you use the term expansion of the licenses. So are you including in your motion the ability for a current licensee to expand to 2 licenses?
Oh, yes, you know what? I apologize. I was reading the staff recommendation wrong. That was not their recommendation. That was one of their alternatives, correct?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm looking at multiple different pages here, but yes. So it actually would be to include the staff alternative of allowing the 16 registered businesses to open a second retail storefront location.
Thank you.
And I'm
okay.
sorry if that was comfortable with the maker, the seconder as well. That clarification is there.
Is that okay with you? Okay, she's raising her hand, yes, saying it's okay. Okay. All right. Anything else then, Councilmember Peralez?
That's it. Thanks.
Okay, then Councilmember Esparza.
Thank you. And so just a couple of things. Thank you to Councilmember Peralez. I appreciate the efforts by my colleagues to open this up and open it way up, apparently. I have the majority of the city's cannabis dispensaries. And my community, which is a low-income community that does have a higher crime rate than the city average, feels like we have been imposed on. And it's kind of funny hearing from my folks that, hey, how come the rules were written to put this in District 7? And then I hear from other folks in other parts of the city that would love the opportunity to have a storefront to buy some of the pretty fancy products that are available for sale. And So it's an interesting position to be in. I do have, and so I appreciate the fact that everybody is kind of compromising a bit, because we are definitely on the forefront of cities in California trying to figure some of these issues out. I have a couple of questions. So for Wendy, I think this would be for Wendy. So would the exclusion of police beats with 20% above average reported crimes be at the time of application? Or maybe it's not Wendy, but I think it is.
Yes, that would be correct, because you have to get your zoning code verification certificate. So it's at that point in time.
Got it. Thank you. And then I also appreciate Councilmember Peralez's approach of sort of the combo in the additions. Where would non-delivery sites likely be expanded? Or I'm sorry, delivery sites likely be expanded?
So the recommendation for those is to be, it is light industrial, combined industrial, commercial, industrial park. So it mirrors what manufacturing and distribution and testing, kind of manufacturing and distribution where they're located. But as a reminder, they're not open to the public. So just keep that in mind. It will look different than what you're seeing now. If they do locate in your district, it would be closed to the public.
Yeah, I mean, and I also bring that up too, because industrial land, and I recognize that it's light industrial and CIC, it's extremely valuable in our city. And we're doing everything we can to preserve it so that we can bring in large employers so that we can provide some density around jobs. And so I just like to remind my colleagues that that need is still there. And we really need to weigh options in terms of density around jobs to address our housing jobs imbalance. And there are a very limited number of places in the city, District 7 being one of them, to offer those jobs rich employers. And so I also wanted to thank my colleagues, thank Councilmember Mann and Councilmember Peralez for addressing equity. And you know, it's interesting being one of the districts that needs equity and definitely has some opinions around the multi-decade inequity in our city. I appreciate actually not saying it's this program or that program. Equity is so much more than a program. And if it were a program, then we'd have to have a discussion around, is it Project Hope? Is it BEST? Is it Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force? Is it, you know what, is it investing in recreation centers and programs in parts of the city that are underinvested, right? So these bring up very complex discussions, and I think Councilmember Peralez's solution to just look at a fund and then at a separate time have a discussion on what that fund would be, I think is a cleaner approach, and why I'm happy to support it. I'll support, obviously I seconded it, so I'll support the motion on the floor. I think we really need to have some more extensive discussions on this with our residents and with the public. I appreciate staff's surveys, and you know, in our rush to bring in more dispensaries and deliveries, we also really need to balance our residents, because that's when where the rubber meets the road, right? It's when we're out there and we're listening and we're meeting with our residents about what goes on around them. That's where things become real. And I look forward to having that discussion at council in August. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Wendy, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just have a question about, I think, and maybe Jared would be able to help me a little bit on this, but One part being for Councilmember Prowse is when you're suggesting the 10 equity businesses and you're saying 5B delivery and 5B retail, what if we only get delivery only requests? Would you make it interchangeable? Like definitely have, say that 5 are delivery only, but the other 5 could be either or is it if we don't get any retail storefront requests, then it's just we've only expanded to the 5 delivery only?
Yeah, I'd be okay with your language as you just suggested, that could ultimately end up being 10 delivery only. I just didn't want to eliminate the opportunity for storefront operations for these 5 equity new 5 equity owners.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. And then
I'll make sure it's okay with the seconder as well before we proceed.
okay.
Yes.
Okay, and then the other thing is I know that we had already began the CEQA study, and I believe that we had it limited to a number cap of 37 in our city. So now this could potentially get it to 42. So if the 16 existing businesses have 16 new retail locations, we're at 32 plus the 10 equity businesses would get us to 42. So Jared, I don't know where we're at with the CEQA study and if that's going to become an issue or if we need to revisit the CEQA study.
Thanks, Wendy. Yeah, so as Wendy mentioned, we analyzed up to we are analyzing up to 37 businesses in the CEQA analysis. So that would be a change to our project description. So it could potentially affect the schedule of bringing this item back to the Planning Commission and Council. We need to go back and consult with our environmental team and see what those changes to the project description might mean in terms of schedule. That's something to.
Okay, I think, yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with that. I feel like we should have gauged, over in the first place versus trying to be right there exact at 37 with the opportunity, right, for growth. So we didn't have to go back out again on something like this. So I'm fine with that.
Can you repeat that, please?
Me or staff?
Staff, that last bit went out.
Yes, sorry about
Go ahead,
that.
Jared.
Okay. I inadvertently hit mute. Yeah, just that we would have to, that could potentially impact the schedule. So it's something we can go back and look at and see by updating the increasing the number in terms of our analysis, how that might impact the project schedule. So it would be just something for the committee to consider.
It's better to get it right than to speed it along at a lesser amount and then come back and say we want more. So I'm okay with a delay too, if that's what's happening. I'd rather see us shoot for 42 and if we don't get 42, we don't get 42. So
I would even suggest we should have given ourselves a bigger envelope in the first place. So even maybe, because we don't know what the conversation may end up like at full council. So maybe even, right, if we're going to open that back up to 42, we might as well consider opening up slightly more, not meaning we're going to go there, but at least give ourselves that capacity so then that way we're not having to go back out to do a full CEQA analysis again.
And I think initially, and Wendy or Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, initially we did intend to go kind of conservatively on the CEQA analysis. I think our initial recommendation was for kind of keeping it at 16. And so we anticipated more and had put in 37 into our analysis.
Yeah, and Jared, just so you know, that was also based on when we did an info memo, I think it was March 2020, it stated this, what our recommendation was. And so that's kind of where the number basis came from. And so so we just did the CEQA study based on that. But yeah, we can see what we can do to update it.
I wouldn't, again, we can take a look at it. I wouldn't imagine it would, have any kind of very significant effects to our CEQA analysis where it would, kick it into an EIR or something, something like that. It's probably more an update to the project description and would be, shouldn't be, I think a huge lift.
Yeah, thank you. And I, as a member of the committee, I'll take, my portion of the credit on, that's something we could have caught earlier, but I agree with our chair. Let's get it right, at least now. And that way we don't have to go back later.
Okay, Councilmember Esparza, are you finished?
Yes, I'm done. I'll lower my hand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Mahan.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks to everybody for the conversation. It's been good, and I feel pretty good about where I think we're landing here. Appreciate the 300-foot change, I think, proposed by Councilmember Esparza. That sounds good to me at this stage. And I want to thank staff for all the work and my colleagues for what I know has been years of work on these issues. I think a lot of progress in a positive direction, making our community a safer and fairer place. And I appreciate the analysis today, which made a lot of sense, and all the public comment, especially from Professor Armelin, who I know has done a lot of deep thinking in this area. And I will forgive him the Matt Mahan confusion, which still happens to me daily, which is okay. But so this is an area that's been policy area that I've had the opportunity to work on a bit in the past when I ran the organizing platform, the causes platform on Facebook. One of our most active areas of engagement was with decriminalization efforts and some of the leading organizations in the country, like the Drug Policy Alliance. And obviously we're in a very different place than we were back in 2007, 2008. I think that interest in sort of in figuring out how to decriminalize, but also address the legacy of some really unjust policies that disproportionately affected and continue to affect communities of color in our community are really where my interest and my motivation for writing the memo come from. So just to get down to the recommendations, because I know our meeting's going a little long here, I'll say on the first point about storefronts, I'm fine with the recommendation. My understanding now is we're talking about 10 that can be either, and my intention is not to limit opportunities, so I'm okay with the change. I do have real concerns about if storefronts are an option, us figuring out how to avoid the experience of other cities in California. And I think the level of exploitation and the failures of those programs in other cities are pretty significant, and we ought to figure out how to better mitigate that. The barriers to entry are very high, which just by necessity, by definition, means that an equity applicant's going to be giving up equity and control and future income, and there's just a lot of risk there. It doesn't mean it can't be done right, so I'm okay with the optionality being preserved, but I would be concerned if most of those equity licenses became storefront licenses and look like what we're seeing in other cities. So I'll just say that. I know we're going to have continued conversation here, but I think the lower barrier to entry and recognizing the fact that we have today, we know we have effectively delivery only kind of off-market businesses in operation in our city. And that's where a lot of our local entrepreneurs, frankly, are at. I grew up in a neighborhood with two we'll call them entrepreneurs in this space who were not operating in a legal capacity, but it was a livelihood, and they're very talented entrepreneurs. And I think we need to figure out how to really create access and lower barriers. So I appreciate where we're heading here. I think the 10 with the flexibility is fine. On the second point about the Community Investment Fund, I think I understand where my colleagues are coming from on this. That was certainly not meant to be an exhaustive list and was rather quickly identifying examples. I would, and again, I know this is going to be a future discussion and debate. I will personally, I think, and I'm open to shifting my perspective on this, but I'm going to be advocating for, with the limited revenues that we have, public dollars that we have, as much as I love our Parks and Recs program and understand the value of having the swim center open and the many different things that we might do, personally, I'm going to be advocating for jobs and education, as I would disagree that those are not addressing root causes and creating significant economic opportunity that has the potential of having significant ripple effects. I mean, I think we know from research that when one person in a family becomes the first to go to college, the impact for that family and extended community network can be incredibly significant. So we can debate whether or not the existing programs are good at what they do or are cost effective, but I would really push back on the notion that there's somehow a window dressing kind of program or that they're not addressing root causes. So again, I know we're going to continue the conversation, don't need to have an extended debate necessarily here, but so I'll be supporting the recommendations, but just, wanted to, supporting the motion, but just wanted to share a few thoughts there. I did have one question that came up. I thought Councilmember Esparza's point on density of jobs was a relevant and important question, and it's something I think is a very serious issue. I'm curious if staff knows, and this may be analysis I just haven't seen, but do we have any evidence that on a per square foot basis that a delivery service operating in, say, light industrial is not going to be producing as many jobs as a comparable, another business that might take that space would?
Thank you, council member. That's not analysis that we've done specifically. I think just probably looking at the business models, it's hard to know. It's just not analysis that we've done. I'm not sure, Wendy, if you had some thoughts on that.
Yeah, when we come back to council, we can definitely try and bring some of that data, because we do know from the businesses, they have managers and they have employees and they have drivers. So we know currently for our businesses how many are drivers, so we could kind of see what some of the data is from an employment perspective. But again, full-time, part-time, I don't know if we actually have that information, whether they live in San Jose or not. I don't think we have that information. But benefit, not benefit, I don't think we have that, quite honestly, but we can at least get you some data based on the statistics of what the employee makeup of the businesses in general looks like.
Great. Yeah, and I know there are a lot of considerations there, like the ones you threw out, and average, the income and benefited and all the rest. I'd just be curious. The reason I ask on a square footage basis is I've had some exposure to the development industry and specifically light industrial, and I know some of those larger footprint buildings are where we want those large employers. I also know we have light industrial parks, including in District 10, where the average space is pretty small, and I'm not sure that on a per square foot basis we're actually talking about a different number of jobs or quality of jobs than what might otherwise go there. So I'd just be interested in understanding that if that is an ongoing concern around the expansion of the licenses. So thanks. Again, I think we're in a good place. I'm okay with the modifications for the reasons I sort of outlined, and again, appreciate all of the work of staff and my colleagues, and look forward to voting this recommendation forward.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Carrasco.
I'll make my comments very brief because I think my colleagues have already covered a very broad discussion, and I'm going to be supporting the motion that's on the floor. It's a complicated motion that's on the floor, I might add, because I think that this is a very complicated issue, and we've been working on it for a number of years. I don't even remember actually at this point how far back we're going. I will just say this, as we continue to dig deeper, I think we're getting better. I hope we're getting better. But but I want to say that for me, this issue does address the issue of equity, whether it's historical, present, or what's to come. We know the history on the war on drugs and the devastation that it left behind, and the devastation that we're still dealing with in terms of the generations or the offspring of all of those that were impacted by it, and the communities of color and that we represent, that all of us represent. And so, as we're dealing with equity, and some of us here put forward some memos to try and figure out how do we help these communities break into the business, into a very expensive business, by the way, and participate in an industry that not only vilified them but criminalized them, and then impacted their lives and that of their families, like I said, for generations. And some of these folks are still reeling from what those policies meant. And they were discriminatory, they were racist, they were oppressive, and they segregated our cities in some of the absolute worst ways. And so now we're trying to figure out how to unravel that in a very responsible way. I think we inch our way towards it. I don't think we're completely there. I think you know, the proof is in the pudding, and I think that we still have a long way to go. But I do think that San Jose is a model for many cities, and I'm proud to be able to work with some of our very responsible cannabis owners, and with Sean, with Will Armeline, and with his students that have been part of my office as well, with some really great folks here in the city and in the county, and of course with my colleagues as well. You know, I thank my council colleagues for some really provocative thinking and some very thoughtful comments, but some thoughtful memos that have been put forward, and of course staff. And I want to thank Wendy as well. I mean, really, this has been a collective effort that not one person could have put anything forward. It really has been a very collective effort in terms of where we are today. And I know that there's going to be a lot of discussion moving forward. The last thing I'm going to say, think there's two things. Is one is I want to make sure that we offer opportunities to individuals that don't have $1 million to get into the business, but I think that they deserve an opportunity to get into this business and to be able to get into this business legally. We don't want them to get into a position that's going to harm them in any way. But we need to be able to create those opportunities. So I'm glad to be able to support the motion as it stands now. We may find that when it goes to council, we're going to become a little bit more, even more creative. And the other is, I do think that as we're generating the kinds of revenues that are coming into the city, it is incumbent upon us to figure out how do we use that to create greater equity or greater opportunities for those children or those communities that were most impacted by the horrific history that was the war on drugs. So I want to thank Councilmember Mayhem, but I do also want to caution us from getting so prescriptive or so specific in terms of where the money goes. But I do think that there is plenty to go around, and it should be used to support those communities that were most impacted. So with that, I'll go ahead and leave it at that, and look forward to ongoing and continued conversation and dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Esparza, I'll come back to you, but I'd like to, since I haven't been able to share my thoughts yet, I thought I'd like to add those. Thank you to Councilmember Perales for creating a motion that I'm very willing to support. It includes all the components of the cannabis policy that I think we were hoping to have. That is expansion of the licenses, accessibility, and ultimately relocating some of the cannabis dispensaries that are so heavily concentrated in District 7 out to other parts of the district, to other parts of the city. I appreciate the memo from Councilmember Mayen as well, but I would caution us all about the fund. I like the idea of the fund, but since it is based on the revenues from the cannabis industry, let us not consider that a way that we need to increase taxes on them in order to increase an education component, that we should be able to budget that within the funds that are already generated. I just wanted to raise that because it feels, some refer to it as a cash cow. True, cannabis does bring in tremendous tax revenue, but we don't want to put them out of business because we're overtaxing them. The other thing I will say is with regards to the urban villages, I'm really concerned or wondering why we would not allow the setbacks to occur on all urban villages. Why are we just limiting them to those urban villages that have plans? Because a developer comes along and they want to build, they want to know what they can build. And if they can build, if they can put a tenant in there who is a cannabis dispensary, maybe that helps them pencil out their project. I don't know. We have a majority of urban villages that do not have defined plans. So we are limiting ourselves by saying only the 13 urban villages that have plans in process that we will allow dispensaries to be located there. I'd rather see us say any urban village, because any urban village, they're going to have a plan anyway before they can build it out. They can't do anything. They can't just come in and have a dispensary locate there. They have to build out we have to have a plan, and then the developer has to execute the plan. So what's the thinking as to limiting it to 13?
Yeah,
D13.
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Foley. Yeah, on that, we thought that because urban villages, different than downtown, they haven't really taken on kind of a critical mass, I would say, of density, and a lot of them kind of are the environment is very similar to the rest of the city in terms of commercial arterials or centers ringed by residential uses. We thought that with those the villages that have approved plans, that's where we would anticipate that more kind of dense mixed-use development to occur. Currently, with the policy framework of the general plan, those villages without a plan would still allow commercial uses to move forward. So, under the current proposal, the kind of citywide approach, you could still someone could still potentially open up a retail cannabis business in those urban villages. They would just need to meet the current recommendation for those requirements. Basically, it's the residential uses or mixed-use residential uses that are restricted in those urban villages that do not have plans. So that was, that's generally our approach there.
But the lack of plans in some of our districts, I know I have developers who want to build projects in urban villages, but because there's no plan, they either decide not to build there or they look elsewhere. So if they had that option, it just opens the door a little bit for them to develop. It gives them more flexibility. So with that in mind, Councilmember Perales, would you consider a friendly amendment to include all urban villages, whether they have a plan or not?
Yes.
Thank you. And Councilmember Esparza, will you accept that as the seconder?
Can you repeat that? I'm in the PowerPoint presentation and I'm trying to see at what point in
the current, just to expand the current 13 urban villages to all 61 urban villages, whether they have a plan or not.
You know what, as long as the other
all the other
requirements apply, sure.
Everything else
I'll
stays
go with that. Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Then I really appreciate this coming forward. This is one of the first things I brought forth, and I wasn't the only one to bring it forth as a policy item at the time a couple of years ago. So it's really good to see it come to fruition and eventually come to council. And I think we are getting it right. We may be tweaking it a little bit more as we think about the setbacks and the path of travel. I really like the path of travel. That makes so much more sense than parcel to parcel, and the other directions that we're going with this. So with that, I will conclude my comments, and I'm really proud to be part of this discussion. And I just want to remind everybody that cannabis is legal in this state, and what we are doing is just expanding a business opportunity in San Jose, where some of our neighboring cities aren't taking advantage of this business opportunity. Councilmember Esparza.
Thank you. Yes, and because our neighboring cities are concerned about the crime and other impacts, and they've been very outspoken on that. So I think that puts more responsibility on us to balance. So I had two comments. One is around the jobs. Thank you to Councilmember Mann. I'm happy to get those jobs. For folks that don't represent industrial areas, the city, we got some federal funds to do some studies around jobs, particularly in industrial areas and opportunity zones. So I just would like to caution that we are in the process of studying how to really use the tools that we have to add more density around jobs. And we don't know all the answers yet, because as a city, we are embarking on that. So, you know, we're probably not going to have all of the answers in August. And again, our industrial land is super precious. Personally, I would like to have some density and help our commercial developers have some density around jobs, lands. And so it is something that I do keep in mind as we look at other uses. I just wanted to go back very quickly. I'm not going to debate this. As we talk about equity, I think it's really important to listen to the council members that represent parts of the city that have been historically underinvested, that have massive inequity in the city. And so I don't have a problem with education or jobs. That's why we've been, particularly the East Side representatives have been working so hard around investment. And I don't mean to leave out former school board member Pam Foley, who also was outspoken during the pandemic to invest in digital infrastructure to help students during the pandemic, because we know that the East Side had been underinvested when it came to digital infrastructure. So I just want to caution that I don't have a problem with education or jobs. We can go back and forth on how many jobs our existing programs have offered us. And the fact that at NSE committee, many council members, not just myself, have raised concerns about minority students and minority youth being focused on cleaning and manual labor, instead of really investing in them to connect them to opportunities in tech. So we definitely have a lot to go on that. And the other thing is, it's great that we all love PRNS, and actually I'm going to put a pin in that. We should love PRNS because we have a Parks Bond coming up next year that we should all be supporting once that happens. But PRNS is the department that oversees the Mayor's Gang Task Force, that oversees BEST, that oversees a lot of programs that address equity in our city. And yes, the kids in my district don't have backyards. They need open space. They need programs because they're so overcrowded. They don't have a backyard and they don't have living rooms to study. They have their nearest library. So that infrastructure is equity. So I just wanted to raise that because I think that this all underscores how the simple amendment made by Councilmember Perales was cleaner so that we can agree on a fund and then figure out on the back end how to spend it. But I would just encourage my colleagues to listen to those who represent the communities in highest need. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Perales, you have the last word.
Yeah, thanks. And I was actually just going to echo some of the concerns that Councilmember Esparza pointed out, but I recognize we can, and what we've obviously put forward in the motion here is an opportunity to debate this at a later date, which I think is much more appropriate. And I think at the time that we do debate that, I will make very clear as to why programs like San Jose Promise or Learns or Works or Aspires are indeed just window dressing on the real issue of addressing equity. And it's not that they're bad programs. It's not that they couldn't help the couple hundred of youth participants that participate, but they do absolutely zero for the root cause of what's, what we need to do in addressing inequities in our city. And I know it firsthand because my little brother through the Big Brothers program, who's been a part of my family since he was 12, participated in the very first San Jose Works program. And still today, his youngest brother is still dealing with the issues that he dealt with, just like hundreds of thousands of youth in these predominantly, affected areas, more heavily impacted areas throughout our city. You may prospectively be able to help a couple hundred kids that join these programs. You do zero though for the root cause of what even got these kids into needing a program like that in the first place. And so I think that that's where we can debate that in the future. That's why I wanted to leave it out. So I appreciate that Councilmember Mahan is willing to support the motion to have that debate at a later date. And the fact that we even, at this point have come so far from where we were 2 years ago, where, 5 of us were willing to vote no on the budget because simply this actual conversation we're having today of how do we actually allocate some resources dedicated to this cause was not able to be accepted. And so I think we've come really far, and I appreciate that, and appreciate that the committee here looks to be unanimous in its support of the direction going forward. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the debate and for good policy. It will, now let's vote.
Roscoe,
Aye.
Perales,
Yes.
Mahan,
Aye.
Esparza,
Yes.
Concludes our meeting. We will now move to open forum. I don't see any hands raised. Okay, I see one hand. Blair.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thank you for the meeting. To simply respect the work of Governor Newsom in 2019 and to help try to clean up how we think and work with the CHSR and the Diridon Station planning ideas, I feel we can organize a better reasoning and more open, friendly dialogue with concentrating our construction efforts toward a centralized LA to Merced to Stockton to Sacramento CHSR line and to be completed by 2035. There are some initial intentions of the CHR and long-distance regional public mass transit using green sustainability. These are the initial intentions. Sub-projects from the central line can include Anaheim to LA, the Central Valley, the Stockton rail yards, and how the CHSR can finally enter into the SF Bay area. Most of all of these projects can have a 2045 completion date for simplicity. I feel to be determined to complete the LA to Merced to Stockton to Sacramento line at this time first, does not have to be mutually exclusive to the competitive bidding at this time between Bay Area counties and eventually bringing the CHSR to the Bay Area. And in fact, to think of the CHSR into the Bay Area as part of the sub-project process and 2045 completion dates, this can possibly push back for longer periods of time any immediate final decisions in the competition between Santa Clara County and Alameda counties for the future arrival of the Bay Area CHSR. I feel the want to concentrate, be determined, and want to complete a central line by 2035. This can free up a less competitive, more focused, better organized, more clear, better reasoning everyone can understand, and can simply help create better unity for everyone of the state about CHSR issues, and easier for CHSR projects and sub-projects to more easily ask for federal funding. With any remaining time, 5 seconds, good luck with flea market issues. Let's be open with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we are adjourned.